You know, there are unwritten rules in sports. Baseball's a big sport that has a lot of unwritten rules that's very hard to keep up with, and nobody understands all of the 119 unwritten rules. Every sport has their unwritten rule. Well, broadcasting, a radio show host, journalism, however you want to classify or umbrella all of the communication roles you may have if you're hosting a radio show like we are, or if you're writing a column every single day. There are also, Diesel, unwritten rules in broadcasting. I want to ask the question, if an unwritten rule was broken today. It's been everywhere. You've probably heard the audio. It was very, very entertaining what happened this morning with Shan Sharif of 105.3 The Fan in Dallas and Jerry Jones. Diesel, sometimes you just get audio that's too good not to play. And I'm asking the question, after we hear this audio, was the media member in the wrong or was Jerry in the wrong? And what's intriguing about this is you take a class. I took a class in college called media ethics, right? You have these media ethic type classes. And I believe everyone will have a different opinion, but I do believe that it's very interesting how certain coaches or owners treat radio show hosts as if, Diesel, they are out to get them. And that, I believe, happens way too often in this business. Welcome to Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. We're talking about the Jerry Jones audio that was played this morning, was aired on 105.3 The Fan, one of our sister stations in Dallas, also an affiliate. I said CBS Sports, Infinity Sports Network, if I may be correct. Have you heard the audio yet, Diesel?
I've heard bits and pieces. If you're Jerry Jones and you're in his camp, it's not good.
No, it's not.
It's not good.
It's not. So I want to ask the question, because you and I are both in the media. We talk to, on this show, a lot of people who are in the media, right? Jordan Kaye of the state newspaper. We're going to talk to him today. We talked to David Hood. We talked to different media members. We also talk to coaches. And Diesel, you and I have an obligation on this show to ask fair questions, right? Mm-hmm. Be respectful to whoever you're interviewing, but also ask challenging questions, even if they are tough questions. You know, I've seen more and more, and I love Jack Veltri, by the way, who we have on from Gamecock Central. He's really good at asking tough questions. But I've seen more recent than usual, Diesel, more and more media members start to cave and really become way too weary of asking tough questions. And I have a huge problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's always that struggle between maintaining access versus asking good questions that are going to get your audience to watch and listen to your show. And hopefully, you know, we're all trying to create the potential viral moments that are how we grow in this business and how we get more attention in this business, right? I mean, like, you know, most of the time, most radio shows, you're feeling good about yourself if you're adding 10, 20, 30 new followers to your personal profiles every month. That's great. But then you just have that boom, one viral moment, and then you jump up 500 or 1,000, right?
Yeah.
And so we're all trying to kind of maintain that balance. And nobody wants to be, well, not nobody. Some people do. Some people very much want to be that just gotcha journalist, putting somebody in a position where they know they're going to be giving an answer that's going to go viral.
Yeah.
And you know, some of those people do prosper in this business. It's unfortunate, but it does happen. And some people don't want to necessarily rock the boat in that way and essentially be stuck on the outside with no access to any of the teams they want to cover.
So I like that way. I like the way that you referred to those journalists. Gotcha, journalists, Diesel. I like that. And the question is, I'm going to play this audio. The question is, was the question that Shan Sharif asked. Again, this audio is from 105.3 The Fan in Dallas, a sister station of ours, Infinity Sports Network. Was it gotcha journalism, or was he being fair? We all know the Cowboys are horrendous right now. Here's Shan Sharif and Jerry Jones this morning. It got heated.
Jerry, I think the counter back when you said, where are you going to get the players? You can't get them this week is, and you're aware of all the offseason topics.
Yeah, but what is your counter? What is your damn counter?
My counter
I really want to know where you would go get it. Now, don't tell me about should have gotten a guy in the offseason.
Why not?
This isn't a damn word argument just because I'm not arguing with you. I'm dealing with how we line up against San Francisco, not what I did wrong last week or last month or 2 months ago or 2 years ago. If I really gave you guys a list of all the things I've done wrong over the last few years, you couldn't be on this program for the next 5 years steady and go over it. But every now and then you do some right things, and at the end of the day, you add it up, and the rights give you a better spot than the wrongs. But if you think for any minute right now, there'll be one Super Bowl champion. What do the others do wrong? There's one Super Bowl champion. Now, we want to be that champion. And I'm sure not throwing the towel in today because of what happened out there Sunday. But I'm not going to sit here and waste a lot of energy, a lot of time. Let's talk about what I should have done back in 1907 or 2017. Shit, Ben. Come on. I've got more time than that, and I actually don't even have time on this great show for looking back at decisions.
Okay. So, Jerry, 1970, a little different from this past off season in building the team we're talking about today, which there was a lot of criticism that you guys didn't add, didn't spend, and don't add and don't spend and are not aggressive enough with some of the problems that are still haunting the Cowboys today that we see play out on the field. That's the point of talking about the offseason.
I remember those criticisms very well. Okay, so what?
Are they playing out to be accurate?
What's your point?
My point is, it seems like
Listen, let me tell you what I'll do. About it. I will let us sit down and look at the decisions we've made over the last several years. Okay? I'll look at it. Now, if you think I'm interested on a damn phone call with you over the radio and sitting here and throwing all the good out with the dishwater, you have got to be smoking something over there this morning. I'm not. And I really don't, and I don't even want our listeners to listen to me, to talk about, this is not your job. Your job isn't to let me go over all the reasons that I did something and I'm sorry that I did it. That's not your job.
Well, my job is to ask why.
A job, or I'll get somebody else to ask these questions, man.
So I want to stop it there for a moment,
Wow.
Diesel. I'll get someone else to ask these questions. That's not your job. Again, if you just tuned into the show, that audio was Jerry Jones this morning on his weekly radio show with Sean and RJ, courtesy of 105.3 The Fan in Dallas. Diesel, the question is, was that gotcha journalism? Right? Because I like the way you put that a few minutes ago. Gotcha journalism. Was the media member, was Sean Sharif in the wrong, or was Jerry Jones simply in the wrong? Tolo's only hear from you as well. But Diesel, you go first.
Well, look, all of the offseason decisions that you've made or didn't make all add up to where you are right now. It's not fair to maybe go back and adjudicate things that happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, because they're just not relevant to this team anymore. I mean, maybe if you're talking about the ridiculous deal you put Ezekiel Elliott under that you're still paying for, that's costing you the ability to go out and spend money in the offseason and free agency. If you want to talk about the ridiculous amount of money that they gave Dak Prescott that's preventing them from going out and getting guys in the offseason, that's a valid point.
Yeah.
And Jerry Jones has to realize all of this stuff feeds down into one thing. Do you have the money? Do you have the resources that you need available to go out and spend what you need to get the players that you need to get to be successful? I mean, what's happened in the past 5 weeks of the NFL season or 4 weeks of the NFL season is absolutely a product of what happened in the offseason.
Yeah.
Now, if Jerry wants to say, hey, we felt good about the decision at the time, if he wants to go down a laundry list of 2, 3, 4, 5 decisions that he made in the offseason that he feels have worked out for the positive for the Dallas Cowboys, that's fine. That's a valid thing to do in that interview.
Sure.
But Jerry was absolutely wrong when he said it is not your job to ask me questions and make me go over all the things that I've done wrong as the owner of this team. And
That
if you
is
don't
their
like,
job.
and if I'll go find somebody else to ask me these questions. I would reply right back to Jerry. Jerry, you're not my boss. You're not paying my salary.
Yeah.
You're not sending me a $25,000 check every year to pay to ask the questions that you want me to ask so that you can make yourself look good in this situation. We, as the radio hosts of this radio station, are not answerable to you, Jerry Jones. We are answerable to the audience, and the audience are the fans, and these fans are your paying customers. You are answerable to them, Jerry,
So
not the other way around.
What's incredibly fascinating, Diesel, is having experienced it, being a Cowboys fan, having lived there. As much as we think, Diesel, there's so much drama and passion about Clemson's fan base and South Carolina's fan base and the fan bases that we have collectively here in the upstate. None of those hold a candle to how mad and passionate and upset Dallas Cowboy fans can get. They don't hold a candle. The level of passion is just different. They're tired of Jerry Jones. I agree with what you said. I think the media member in that particular case, Sean Sharif of 105.3 The Fan, I don't have any problem. Did he personally? Here's where I draw the line, and you tell me if you disagree, Diesel. As your job and my job, when we're talking to each other or if we're talking to a guest on that telephone right there, if we make things personal, I think that's where you cross the line. I think that's where a radio host or a columnist or a journalist, when they start taking personal attacks, and it happens on the major networks, it happens on the ESPNs, it happens on the biggest morning shows, and that's why you've seen breakups before, because of personal attacks. If you're not taking personal attacks and you're asking fair questions, I have no issue whatsoever. Absolutely no issue. What I heard Sean Sharif ask was what every Dallas Cowboy fan wants to know of why they're in this spot, why they're here, why they haven't made any progress. The text line, 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Also, a few comments on the YouTube stream. Just a few more seconds of this Jerry audio. I want to hear just exactly how Matty got. But first, Diesel, go ahead.
Yeah, before you get there, Sean Sharif is pulling a master class right now of giving your guest just enough rope to hang themselves with.
Yeah.
He is giving Jerry Jones just like Sean could have jumped in and said, okay, Jerry, well, tell me what you've done right.
Yeah.
Tell me what decisions you believe have led to this point of the season that have turned out positively for the Dallas Cowboys.
Sure.
He could have jumped in and said, okay, here's your floor. Take the opportunity. Tell us what you've done right. Instead, Sean just sat back and let Jerry Jones act like a complete and utter a-hole on the radio.
He did.
In one of the biggest media markets in the country.
Yeah.
Not that anything will come of it because Jerry owns the team and Roger Goodell would never go against Jerry.
It's true. All right, here's the rest of the audio in case you just tuned in. This is Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. Jerry Jones absolutely heated this morning on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas.
Jerry, we're trying to figure out why the team is.
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. You're not going to figure out what the team is doing right or wrong. If you are, or any 5 or 10 like you, you need to come to this meeting I'm going to today. There are 32 teams here. You're geniuses.
Jerry,
okay? Y'all really think you're going to sit here with a microphone and tell me all of the things that I've done wrong and without going over the rights?
Well,
now, listen, we both know we're talking to a lot of great fans and a lot of great listeners. And I am very sorry for what happened out there Sunday. I'm sick about what happened Sunday. Now, I'm not talking to these yahoos on the end of this phone. I'm talking to you, the fans that are listening this morning. And we can spend a lot of time going over zigging and zagging. One of the stupidest things I've ever done that anybody has ever analyzed is by the Cowboys. It was an idiot that did that. So idiot things can turn into good decisions. Okay? Smart things can turn into bad decisions. The facts are that when you make one, you don't really know whether it's going to be good or not at the time. So let's just go ahead. I'm trying to.
Diesel, I believe Jerry Jones to this day, 2024, I believe that Jerry Jones has a built-up level of arrogance because of what he did in the 90s, with what he did in turning this franchise around and making it the most profitable franchise still to this day, right? I said yesterday when you left, I said it's the best marketing agency ever. That's what it is. It's a marketing agency with no substance. I, in my entire life, have been a lifelong Dallas Cowboy fan, and I have denied that it's Jerry's fault. I have denied that it's Dak's fault. I have denied. But I'm telling you, man, after today, I'm never pulling for death. I'm never pulling for someone to die. But after today, this franchise will never get any better until that moron gets out of the way and hires a general manager who knows football.
Man, if only the hosts had enough gumption and had the thought at the moment and say, well, Jerry, if you're calling yourself an idiot for buying the team, why don't you just sell it?
Yeah.
Why don't you just sell it? You know, I mean, if you really want to blow this relationship up, and I assume Jerry comes on that radio show fairly regularly.
Weekly.
Yeah. So, I mean, a program director would probably be livid with you if you insulted an NFL owner and a guest on your airwaves like that. However, it also matters how well do you know your program director and how well you think he would take it if you told Jerry Jones over the phone to his face that you're an idiot and you need to sell the team, that you're the reason why this franchise is failing. I mean, could you imagine, Cole, if we had Dabo Swinney on our show on a weekly basis?
Yeah.
And when things were bad last year and things got really, really bad, if we said, Dabo Swinney, just quit, just get out of the way. You're the reason why this is failing, right? And could you imagine just how fast our boss would run down the hallways and say, get your asses out of here. You're fired. You're gone.
Yeah.
Unless he also believes the same thing you believe, in which case the program director of that radio station, 105.3 The Fan in Dallas, might give you a raise.
And that just goes to show how much they hate losing. They do. They hate it. They don't care how Jerry Jones, how rich he is. Diesel, they're fed up. And they should be. Texter says, questions were not out of line. Jones is just a jerk. Another texter says, Jerry is a loser. Cowboy fans will never win until he dies. Wow. Another texter from the, 743, Dallas fans should pull for Jerry to kick the bucket.
Ooh.
God,
that's cruel.
Getting cruel here.
That's cruel. Right?
Madcraft says Jerry Jones would buy the media rights just so he could fire the guy and replace him. That sounds about right. Brian on the YouTube stream sounds like he didn't want to answer the questions because he would have gone down a rabbit hole. Madcraft, problem is almost any GM would have believed in Dak too because that's all sports media welled about. So really, really interesting, really just sometimes mind-boggling, Diesel, for our profession to hear audio like that from a billionaire. It kind of sometimes just sends a shell shock to you like, wow, that we're doing the same job they are, and it got that heated. I hope I never have an interview that gets that heated.
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine having Dave Tepper on our show? That would be a prime example and a very easy example.
Sure.
To flat out say to Dave Tepper over the phone, you are the reason why this franchise is failing.
Yeah.
Considering that one of our radio stations in this building carries that station. And of course, they could end the partnership, they could end the deal and have us not, carry games for them anymore and not have them on in this market anymore. And, you got to ask yourself the question, how much is personal satisfaction worth? How untouchable do you really feel in the market? I mean, you and I, we're here on a smallish radio signal, and we've been on this show now for 142 shows. We're not exactly entrenched media members who have 30-year careers in this market who make a frick ton of money for
I know
the
where
radio
that was going
station.
from. I had no idea.
Can say, you know what, Jerry, blank off.
Yeah, blank off.
Right?
Okay, good.
Yeah. Like we can't exactly say that. And as much as even some people feel like you can say things like that, we have two bosses who have to agree with us
Right.
We have to have Mark Hendricks say, you know what? You are untouchable.
Yeah.
And then we'd have to have our boss downstairs, Steve Sinacroppy, say, you know what? You are untouchable. There's nothing I could do about that. Bravo. You win after Dave Tepper.
Diesel, before we run to a break, I want to give a poll that I put on Twitter last night. I want to get your thoughts as well from the as well as thoughts from the Tolos. I don't know if you saw the video yet, but last night during the Monday Night Football game, Aaron Rodgers threw a Hail Mary for a touchdown at the end of the first half. Absolutely incredible. I put up a poll, and I want to get the Tolos' reaction on this poll. When Aaron Rodgers throws a Hail Mary, Diesel, who should get more credit? Aaron because he threw the ball, or wide receiver that actually made the catch? Who should get more credit?
That's a very interesting
We'll get back to that
question. When we come back, Cole, we're going to keep it right here in the NFL. Are there even 3 more winnable games left for the Carolina Panthers this season? And some actual good news for a change. That's next on the Fan Upstate. On the stream, Brian Pettit asks, who's watching college football tonight? It feels wrong, Brian.
No.
It feels wrong.
No.
But I'm going to do it anyway.
Yes.
I'm going to do it anyway. Tuesday night football.
Maction, baby.
No.
No
There's no Maction on tonight. Tuesday night football.
I thought there was a Maction game.
No, there's a Sunbelt game. 7:30, Troy versus South Alabama. 1-5 versus 2-4.
And Troy will probably still get killed.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. South Alabama favored by 11 in this game.
Ooh.
There's a Conference USA game, Kennesaw State versus Middle Tennessee State, 0-5 versus 1-5. And then there's actually another Conference USA game, Louisiana Tech at New Mexico State.
Maybe we'll get Maction tomorrow.
1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 combined wins, Cole, between these 6 teams. You got more. Oh my God. You got more teams playing tonight. One fewer team playing tonight than they have wins combined among the 6 of them.
7-28.
Oh my
combined
God.
record. Not really good, right?
Brutal.
But let's
Brutal.
watch. I watch every game. Sign me up.
Man, this is one of those nights. It's like catch up on the Netflix show. It's go back and watch the episode of The Penguin that you haven't watched yet, which by the way is really good. If you haven't watched it,
Have
The Penguin.
not. No, have
Are you into like the superhero shows and
no.
movies and anything like that? Okay.
not.
Well, this is based in the same world as the most recent Batman movie with Robert Pattinson as Batman. So it's based in that world, but they're doing a good job because they're not making it about superheroes and superpowers. It's just a small kind of mob story. I think it's really good. But no, I'm not going to be watching any of this stuff tonight. I might tune in and watch a couple of minutes of it, but I can't sit down and watch a 1-5 and a 2-4.
I can't either unless there's
well, that's because you're a degenerate. And you're willing to put money on these
let me be very clear. If there was no, vested interest, I mean, I wouldn't want to watch, but
okay. You don't want to watch, you just feel the compelling need to watch. And hey, that might be the only reason you're watching the Carolina Panthers for the remainder of this football season, Cole, because they suck really, really badly. And it's hard to find a whole lot of wins on the remaining schedule this season, Cole. It certainly gets tougher as you go down the stretch. It felt like for this team, if you were going to get wins, you were going to need to get wins early because then it gets tougher and tougher and tougher down the road. But before we get into trying to find 3 winnable games on the schedule for the Carolina Panthers, some good news for Dave Canales and the Carolina Panthers. Dave Canales hinted yesterday that second-round running back rookie out of Texas, Jonathan Brooks, could be on the practice field this week. That's big.
It's about time.
That's big.
About time.
They really like his pass-catching ability and his patience in his running style. I think that'll certainly play off very well with Chuba Hubbard, who's more of a downhill kind of runner, north and south kind of guy.
He's the best. Brooks is the best running back on the roster. In my opinion.
By far. But he's also a rookie, and he's going to need time. And he certainly, I don't know what he's been able to do as far as, I'm sure he's been doing a lot of study and things like that. But unless you're out on the field actively practicing, you're not getting the full force of what it is you could do. So I think it's going to take him a couple of weeks. The Carolina Panthers will open up a 21-day window where they can move him to the active roster. So that's a good thing. You finally get your pick out on the field, and it kind of feels like just another dumb Carolina Panthers move to pick a guy, no matter how good you think he is, who is going to be inactive for you for a good chunk of his first season, unless you feel like the dude is an absolute game changer.
I think he is a game changer. You just have to be careful for many reasons. Number one, you just said it, he's a rookie. He's coming off of a ACL. You don't know how he's going to, off of an injury, adapt into NFL play. So there has to be like a pitch count in my mind. There's got to be a cautious optimism when talking about Jonathan Brooks, because I do think he has the potential. And gosh, they need somebody that can, be a game breaker. But at the same time, you don't want to ruin his future.
And it has to work out, because if it doesn't, and you just wasted a second-round draft pick on a guy who was injured, who never pans out for you, you look like morons.
Yeah.
You look like idiots who are making decisions based on the name on the back of the jersey and nothing else. So we'll see how that works out. That is good news for the Carolina Panthers, getting him back. Hopefully he can be that kind of dude, right? Like hopefully he can add some extra wrinkles. Certainly with his pass catching ability, that's going to give Andy Dalton one more weapon to maybe find some success in the passing game. Andy has not really been that bad in the passing game in his 4 games at this point. Andy was awful 2 weeks ago. He was decent against the Falcons, had some issues down the stretch late, obviously with the pick, but Andy has been okay. He has been serviceable. He has done his job as the backup quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. But Cole, as we look down the list here, I want to see if we can even find 3 winnable games. I've got 3 highlighted. Outside of that, it's hard for me to say any more of these games are potentially winnable. But if this happens, Cole, if it comes to fruition, they've doubled their win total from last year.
You're saying you've got 3 that you believe are winnable games.
Winnable. Okay. Not sure wins.
No, I like that.
Because the Carolina Panthers are not favored in the ESPN matchup predictor for any game in the remainder of the season. There's a couple where there are higher chances than others, Cole. And I want to see what you think.
Could you only find 3, by the way, or just these are 3 of maybe more? Because I'm going to be honest, I don't know if I can find 3 winnables. I don't know. I might push back on you.
There's really 2.
Okay.
1 more is a reach. If you go 1 more on top of that, like you're really, really stretching at that point.
All right, let's see.
Really stretching.
I'm going to try my best to find something.
Okay, so let's go this weekend, Cole. Carolina Panthers going on the road to face Washington. Washington, who is really good right now. Not going to win that football game.
They have no shot.
Not going to win that football game. Yeah, so we're not even going to bother wasting a lot of time talking about that one. Okay, next week, they go on the road to Denver. I think Denver is one of the 3 winnable games remaining on this schedule. Denver have only looked really good twice this season. You know, they had 3 weak performances, one of which was a win, a very paltry win against the Jets. I think Denver is a winnable game. Bo Nix is not exactly lighting up the scoreboard. He's not bad. It's a rookie season, right? Yeah. But both of these teams are in the bottom 5 of the NFL with the passing game. Very similar rushing stats. I think these are 2 fairly evenly matched teams, 2 bad football teams. I think this is a winnable game on the road at Denver. Matchup predictor 41%. You know, that's about as good as it gets for the Carolina Panthers. I think Denver is a winnable football game.
Okay, so I'm not going to push back a ton on Denver. Is it winnable? It is. Are the Panthers right now, in my mind, better than Denver? They're not.
No.
Denver beat Tampa Bay and the New York Jets. I don't think that the Carolina Panthers right now could beat either the Jets or the Bucs. So I'll say I'll agree with you. It's winnable, but I would say winnable, not likely. How's that?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, all I'm saying is they need to have a chance.
They got to have a chance
in the game. And when you got a rookie quarterback, anything could happen.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. New Orleans at home. Don't think that's a winnable football game right now, even with Spencer Rattler starting for the Carolina Panthers for the New Orleans Saints. Now that's 3 weeks down the road, Cole.
Yeah.
So we don't know the extent of Derek Carr's injury, when they might be getting him back, but I don't think it really matters either way. This New Orleans team is built differently. It's built better than the Carolina Panthers are, and whether it's Carr, whether it's Rattler, it's not a winnable game for the Panthers.
My only concern with New Orleans, Diesel, when you talk about having to host the Saints in 3 weeks, and we're talking about I didn't get mixed up there, did I?
No, this is
Saints. Okay.
Yeah, Saints game at home.
The Saints game at home, Diesel, the Saints gave up a ton of points on Sunday. And I mean, they gave up a ton of points to Baker Mayfield. Look, you're right. It's still 3 weeks away. Regardless, though, in my mind, even though New Orleans' defense is not good, I just don't know that the Panthers I don't know that they have the ability to win shootout-style games.
They're not efficient enough.
Well, they're
throwing the ball up in the air.
We saw Sunday, like Atlanta pushed the ball down the field. Carolina was not able to replicate. They weren't able to go score for score. any team you play, whether it's the Saints or Commanders or New York Giants, if you're in the Carolina Panthers situation right now and you're having to go score for score, you can forget it. The only way the Panthers are going to win games are to keep them low scoring, defensive games, muddy them up. I don't see that happening in Week 9 against New Orleans.
Cole, the next game after that, I think is clearly the most winnable game left on the schedule. This is the New York Giants matchup in Munich. You know, you take Bryce Young's games out of it because you look at any statistical comparisons, anything like that, it's going to include the Bryce Young games. If you take the Bryce Young games out, Andy Dalton and Daniel Jones are fairly comparable in the passing game, and I trust Andy Dalton just a little bit more than I do Daniel Jones. I think this is the most winnable game still on the schedule.
It is.
New York. It's Germany. Weird things happen.
No, sure. New York sucks. I mean, they put it frank, they're not good. Carolina, when you talk about winnable games, these are the type of opponents that you're looking at. The New York Giants, right? Maybe in a few weeks from now or a few 2 months from now, maybe Dallas is so down bad that they're a winnable game. But no, if you could, you would sign up to play New York 6 more times because you probably would win 4 out of 6, Diesel, or 3 out of 3, 50-50 if you're the Carolina Panthers. But that's the hard part. I mean, you're asking a question of finding 3 winnable games for this Panthers team that just looks absolutely I don't want to say putrid, but offensively, they're just not able to actually put drives together consistently. And like I said, if you ask them to go play in a shootout, they have no shot at all. So
yeah, and you know, the New York Giants obviously now with the moves they made in the offseason, their running back room is not good.
Yeah,
it's not good. Devin Singletary, Tyrone Tracy Jr., neither one of those guys getting a ton of yardage. Neither one of those guys putting up gaudy numbers at this point in the season. I mean, they've busted a few big runs here and there, but you know, I'm not blown away by anything in the New York Giants rush game that would say it could support a Daniel Jones if he's having a bad football game. Go down the list after that, Cole. Kansas City, not winnable. Tampa at home, not winnable at this point. Philadelphia on the road, not winnable at this point. And then we get down to Dallas, Cole.
Yeah.
Dallas, who is so all over the place. And at the moment, at least, who knows what's going to happen? That's what, 9 weeks, 8-9 weeks from now?
Yeah, December.
Who knows what Dallas is going to be at that time? But that's a franchise in disarray. Dallas is a winnable football game.
It is right now. It is. Right now it is. And again, you're right. 9 weeks from now, who knows, right? The Panthers may be way better. The Panthers may be way worse. Dallas may be better or worse. But you're right. Right now, today, on the 15th of October, it's absolutely a winnable game for the Carolina Panthers because Dallas can't stop anybody. They can't run the football. Dallas is just they're not a good football team. However, I'll say this, looking down Carolina's schedule, I can't find I mean, if you force me to with a gun to my head, I'll find 3, but it's hard. It's hard, man. This team is just not good. It's hard to find 3 winnable games.
Madcraft on the stream asked the question, why not sign Colin Kaepernick right now? Are we still on this? Are we still like, do you want to talk about Harambe too while we're at it, Madcraft? I mean, for real. Colin Kaepernick is 36 years. Does he still want to be in the NFL? Like, is he still pushing to get on any rosters? Is he still trying? Is he still working out? He's not. He's not. We need to move on from this Colin Kaepernick thing, please.
Come on, man.
Yeah, right.
Diesel, sports radio is built on what ifs, hypotheticals, right? I have some what ifs for you, for the Tolos regarding South Carolina. I want to hear your thoughts next. Text. Let me try to turn my mic on, then talk, Diesel. Done that already 3 times this week, and today's Tuesday. Texter says, Cole, who do you like in the ALCS? Love the show. Hate the Yankees. I like the team that's the Yankees. I don't like the Guardians. I don't know. I don't know if the Yankees will sweep them, but I don't know that the Guardians win more than 1 game. I really don't. I think it could be very, very lopsided. I'll go Cleveland. I'll say Cleveland wins 1 game, and that's it. 1 game, but the Yankees win the rest. Diesel, everyone loves a good what if. I've got some what ifs. I love what ifs. Hypotheticals, right? We talked about Alabama yesterday. We talked a lot about Alabama last week after they lost to Vandy, right? And I just, again, I don't want to be like Mr. Overreaction, Mr. Knee-jerk. However, I do like thinking about what could come, what the future could hold in terms of dynasties and what we've seen in the past. Because the past, while it happened in college football, Diesel, it didn't happen in this era of college football. So we really don't know what to expect. My first what if for you as well as the Tolo, 71307. Start your text with the word fan if you want to chime in on the conversation. You can also chime in on the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone, 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. Diesel, what if the Alabama dynasty's over?
Ooh.
Just over. I mean, still a good team, still competitive in the conference.
Like falling back to 8-9 wins a season.
Yeah.
Kind of good.
Yeah. I mean, you're still competitive. I'm not saying they've fallen off the cliff, right?
Yeah.
But
I think college football would be fine without Alabama being elite.
Think so?
Yeah, because look, we've got the rise of Texas, we've got the rise of Oregon, Ohio State is still there. You've still got plenty of elite teams. You've still got the opportunity for other elite teams to emerge. Tennessee possibly coming back. Ole Miss, not this year at least. I think college football is fine without Alabama being the hot team for a little while. I mean, even if it's for the next 5-10 years where let's just say they don't even make the SEC championship game for a decade. It seems unlikely. It seems absurd to say it out loud, but honestly, the sport is fine. The sport would be fine without them.
It would be fine. I agree with you. I think it would. However, you know what I do find very interesting, Diesel? You know how when Alabama was in their dynastic run, everybody was so sick of them, right? I think now, if the dynasty truly is over, I think you'll see fans of college football start to miss Alabama. I really do. I think so.
Oh, man. Candlelight vigils.
I don't know, man.
Like Tuscaloosa.
It was a staple. You knew Bama was going to be in the national championship hunt. And again, don't hear me wrong. I'm not saying it's over, but I'm just saying what if.
I mean, think about all the teams that I just named off that have been essentially on the back of a milk carton for the past 15 years. Texas and Tennessee and Miami and other schools like that. College football has been just fine without them.
I know, but it's Alabama. Alabama, Diesel.
Somebody else always emerges to take up the mantle. Right?
I don't know. You know what? I'm not even an Alabama fan. Never have been. In fact, I've pulled against them many times. I don't even know if I'm ready for the Alabama dynasty. I'm serious, man. It's like an emotional tie. It's like I grew up. Alabama's always been the king of the sport. I don't know that I'm ready for that ship to sail. I just don't. Yeah. I've never pulled for them, but I don't know.
It's a weird thought to say they're going to do everything that they're currently doing, trying to get back to that tippy top spot, but it just doesn't work out for them. Let's say Kalen DeBoer ends up being a 650 type of coach, which is a good record. 650 is a good record, but it's not good enough for Alabama.
No.
So Kalen DeBoer ends up being a failure at Alabama. Then the guy that comes after him ends up being a failure at Alabama. Man, you're going back to the 70s and 80s. That's when Alabama was in football purgatory.
All right, another what if, and then you have a what if as well. I want to get to that. My last one for you, though. What if this season, 2024, what if Shane Beamer Diesel would have beaten LSU in Alabama in the same season? 2 years after beating Tennessee and Clemson back-to-back. Where would that elevate them? Would that put them up there with Spurrier? I know a lot of people would say, no. It wouldn't put them up there with Spurrier. However, Diesel, think about what I just said. A few plays away, South Carolina this season would have beaten LSU and Alabama in the same season.
Smitty told us last week moments are not enough in Columbia. And those would certainly be two phenomenal moments. And obviously the fan base would be riding tremendously high right now. Let's just say the Ole Miss game had still played out the way that it did. And you were a one-loss football team. That one loss, you just had one of those weird AF Saturdays and you got beat down, was it 24-3 or 27-3?
Yeah, something like that.
But outside of that, you've beaten two perennial Western powers in that conference. That would be massive. That would be massive. This school would be riding high. There would be recruits climbing over themselves to get to Columbia. You know, the new kids on the block. Shane Beamer and his positivity would be infectious. It would be taking over college football. I mean, Shane's got the personality to grab a hold of that thing and run with it.
Right? He does.
We've also seen the effects of when the emotion goes a bad direction or a not advantageous direction for South Carolina. But man, if that was the case, and you're talking about a one-loss South Carolina team with a resume with LSU and Bama on it,
I'm telling you, man,
he'd be
up there.
They would be right now at the moment, probably around number 12, 13 in the country.
Sure. And it'd be deserving, right? All right, let's go to Dewey in a second. But first, Diesel, one of your what ifs, also related to the Gamecocks.
Yeah, what if Kirby Smart had taken the South Carolina job? All of the same trials and tribulations, all of the same deficiencies that they faced under Will Muschamp, all of the same problems there. What if Kirby Smart was the guy? Could Kirby Smart have pulled them out of the hole that they were in?
Yeah. They'd have beaten Alabama and LSU this year. I mean, really, what games would they have lost this season? Let's just say, for example, Diesel, he didn't have any better players than what they have now, right? He has the roster currently, but nobody better, which in reality, we all know he'd have better players. However, with this roster, Kirby Smart wouldn't have lost to Bama and Georgia. I mean, to Bama and LSU. He'd have beat them both. I really believe that. Daily Dewey. Let's see if Dewey has anything good today. Dewey, what's up?
The only reason why South Carolina lost to LSU and Alabama is because their kicker. They need to get rid of that kicker, and then we'd be having a conversation. But they're going to run the table the rest of the year anyway. So Shane Beamer's going to be SEC Coach of the Year.
SEC Coach of the Year. Thanks, Dewey. I don't know about that. Now, they do have kicker problems.
Do you want to trade him for Greg Zuerlein of the New York Jets, who doinked 2 off of the goalpost last night?
He's a former Cowboy.
Yeesh.
I used to be a Zuerlein guy.
Man, that was tough to watch. Really, really tough to watch. When we come back, Cole, I don't know if this is going to be helpful or hurtful to the Tolos, but you and I are going to go down our list of upset pick early leans, some games that we're considering, some games that we're looking at. We'll talk our way through it, maybe talk ourselves out of it. That's coming up next right here on the Fan Upstate. So I pulled a Yui on Cole in the commercial break. Normally, this time, 4:00 on Tuesdays, we talk about a couple of the upset picks challenge games that we're considering, that we're looking at. And we always like to give reasons why we're thinking about picking those games. And it seems like there's logic behind these, right? Like you're not just picking games out of nowhere. But I'm going to let Cole talk me out of the 3 games that I'm looking at right now.
Which is a horrible decision, by the way. Because I suck.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe I'd be better at not. I don't know. We'll see how.
I mean, I'm beating you in the challenge, but not by much. I am on a 2-game losing streak in the challenge. I'm now outside of the top 45. I find myself to be in the top 45. You need 16 points, and I right now on the board, Cole, trying to scroll through and find my name super quick. I see you way down there with
Starts
5
with
points.
a D and ends with an E.
I've got 15 points. So I'm 1
That's
point
not bad.
outside of the top 45. That's sort of the cut line right now on the graphic. And you're way down there. So I'm not really sure I should be taking your advice, but I want to hear what you have to say anyway.
Your options are limited here, buddy.
You Tolos, if you've got games that you're interested in, text in 71307. We'll break it down and see if you're wrong, right? Actually, what I really need to do is we need to call Twisted Whisker and get him on the phone and be like, can you talk me out of the games that I'm interested in, Twisted Whisker?
Tolo yesterday called, forgot who it was. He's hit 3 in a row.
Yeah. Well, Billy. Billy Horn has hit 3 in a row. He's at 34.5 points. Think about this. Billy Horn, most years, 35, 40 points will win this thing. Now it doesn't even have you on the medal stand.
No.
Doesn't even have you on the medal stand because we got Twisted Whisker with 56.5, Noel with 51.5, and John Dog with 44 points. I'm having to rethink my strategies here, Cole. Okay, so I'm going to look at 3 football games. I'm going to give you my reasons why I think this is a good pick, and you try to talk me out of it. How about that? Tolos, you can get involved as well. 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. You can also message us on the stream, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I'm looking at Miami at Louisville +4. Miami are 4-point road favorites. Louisville, the home team. Miami has had 2 suboptimal performances in a row, 1 at home, 1 on the road. Virginia Tech and Cal. Yeah. They probably should have lost both of those football games. They somehow came out and won both. Why should I not pick Miami Louisville?
So you should not pick this game, Diesel. Number 1, because I'm this upset picks challenge expert. Number 2, the number 2 reason is Louisville's rushing defense in 2024. It's very good against running backs. However, quarterbacks have feasted every FBS opponent that Louisville has played this season, Diesel. You know who's been the leading rusher? The quarterback.
Really?
Miami. Cam Ward is going to feast. Again, Louisville's run defense against running backs is really, really good. They're in the upper portion of FBS defenses. However, when you look at the games they played against FBS opponents, every game the quarterback has been the leading rusher against Louisville. For that reason, I'm telling you, Miami's Cam Ward is going to run and run and run like Forrest Gump and keep on running. Might have 100 yards. Okay. And for that reason, Louisville will win, or excuse me, Miami will win big, in my opinion.
It seems like a logical game, right? Like Louisville is a good football team. They're at home, and Miami has had 2 bad performances in a row. It seems like a game that a lot of people are going to pick. So maybe there's a good reason to stay away from it because they just cannot stop running quarterbacks, and Cam Ward, that is what he is elite at. Okay, next, Cole, I'm going to look at Nebraska +5 at Indiana. Nebraska are playing really good defense. They're holding opponents to under 10 points in all 5 of their wins. Only once, which I believe was the Illinois game, did they not hold up an opponent to under 10 points. Why should I not take Nebraska +5 on the road at Indiana?
Well, number 1, their kicker's hurt, and the kicker's the most important position in the game, right? That's what everyone believes.
Oftentimes, if you got a 4-year kicker, they end up setting records.
That's true.
At a school.
It's true. And again, let's not get Gamecock fans on the kicker. The Cornhuskers' biggest issue, Diesel, has come in the opponent's territory of the field. They're 108th in finishing drives. When they get to the opponent's side of the field, they're 108th in college football in finishing drives. They can get to the 50, but they can't finish. They cannot finish. I hope you tellers don't have that problem. They've got to be able to finish if they want to win that game. Diesel, they can't, and for that reason, I'm telling you, the Cornhuskers, it's a risky pick on Saturday.
Risky pick. Indiana is very, very good. Indiana's very, very good. So that's an interesting one. It's worth 5 points. And my final one, Cole, that I want to look at right here is Notre Dame at Georgia Tech plus 11. Georgia Tech 11-point home dogs. Haynes, here's my reason why I'm interested in this game.
Okay.
Haynes King is lights out at home, completing 76% of his passes at home, which is 10% higher than his career percentage against top 25 teams. Haynes King is like a tractor beam. He has a tractor beam in his shoulder in Atlanta. That's why I'd be interested in taking Georgia Tech. Why is that a bad pick?
So this one is the one I've struggled with the most.
Really?
Out of the three, because I think this is the best pick of the three, which means if I think it's the best pick, stay away. It's not going to happen. Diesel, look, at the end of the day, is Georgia Tech, while they're a fantastic story, Notre Dame's defense has been really good since the NIU loss. They've been really, really good. Their defense has. Mm-hmm. One of the top half in the country. I don't think this game's close. I don't think it's close.
Blowout loss for Notre Dame?
I just find Georgia Tech on Saturday, I find Georgia Tech struggling to score. Again, I may be wrong. I'm thinking 30s to 10, 34-10, 32-10. I don't know if Notre Dame's defense is good, man. And I don't know if people have talked about it enough. I know that the NIU loss was horrible, but their defense really has been good. So that's my reasoning there.
And I'm going to disregard all of it because you don't know what you're doing in this challenge either.
I suck.
Let's go to Billy Horn on the line. Billy, you're crushing it in this challenge right now. You've hit multiple picks in a row. I don't know if you're calling in to give me any advice on the games that I looked at, but what do you got for us today?
All right. I like your Georgia Tech game. It's one of my three that I'm choosing between. I like Georgia Tech. You are correct. King at home is lights out. On the road, he has trouble. He had trouble at Louisville. I like Georgia Tech at home. Not sure if that's my pick, though. I also am debating between the Texas A&M and Mississippi State game. Mississippi State showed that they could put up points. Texas A&M has trouble on defense, especially the pass defense. It's an uppity one. And then my gimme game is I like Illinois over Michigan +3.
Ooh.
What do you think, Diesel?
Illinois is a very good football team, and Michigan has problems scoring. So I like it. I like that one a lot. I can't really find a ton of fault.
I do too.
In that one for you.
Good stuff, Billy.
But it's only worth 3 points, Billy. So I'm also you're way ahead, man. So you're trying to close the gap. You're in 6th place with 34.5 points. Still, this is say that again.
Up there with 50 points. I need that big one.
Right.
That Texas A&M Mississippi State game at 15.5.
Is it worth the risk to drop down a point for you? I believe that it is.
I agree, but I still like the Georgia Tech game better. I'm going to weigh it out one more day and let you guys know tomorrow.
Billy, you're the man.
Thank you, Billy. Appreciate it.
Look,
phone call.
I'd be listening to Billy if I were the Tolos.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I would go back on the Odyssey app when I get home. If I'm a Tolo, I'd pull the Odyssey app, Diesel, up on my phone. If I hadn't downloaded it yet, I'd download it and use the rewind feature. And whatever Billy Horn said, I'd write it down. I'm not kidding. I really would. He's on fire right now, 3 in a row. So let me ask you this question. Of the 3, before I start giving you a few that again, I'm thinking might hit, right? But we all know if you want a safe pick, just pick the opposite of what I picked. Of the three, do you have a lean yet?
Of the three, I'm leaning Haynes King and Georgia Tech. I mean, they seem like a great story getting going this season with the fantastic road game in Ireland over Florida State. It felt like this is the year. Like Haynes King came into college football, especially at Texas A&M, with so much promise, so much hype around that guy. Then he ends up at Georgia Tech, and it felt like his numbers had improved over the 3 seasons while he was at Georgia Tech, and it just felt like this is the year that Georgia Tech could pop and be a better team than we all expected them to be. And then, man, that bubble has burst. And so that's why I think it's just risky.
It's risky. It really is. However, you've got to risk it for the biscuit.
You've
true. You've got to risk it.
That's true. I've got 15 points, and I am certainly not going to catch up to anyone if I'm taking these 4 and 5 point games.
It's past that. You can't. It's too late in the season.
And everybody is finding so much success hitting with those. So I'm at that point, Cole, in the season where I'm rethinking my strategies, and it's like, do I need to start going for the big ones? Because this has been the season of crazy top 10 upsets, right?
Yeah.
I mean, could I interest you? Could I interest you in going with Purdue again?
No. They're not beating Oregon. No.
Plus 27.5, but it's a home game.
I don't care if that game's played
game.
in the North Pole. No, they're not. No,
but we've seen seasons in the past where Purdue will pull that crazy upset and just light the college football world on fire. Wouldn't that be the most 2024 college football thing to happen?
After beating Ohio State?
Yes.
Are you kidding me? Madcraft says, I'm liking Georgia Southern over JMU.
I mean, it happened. I'm going to get to you, Madcraft, here in just a second. But, hey, it happened with Alabama.
Yeah.
They won at home over Georgia and then lost the next week to Vanderbilt.
No, I don't like it.
Purdue is the Big Ten's Vanderbilt right now.
I don't like
they
it.
got the same colors.
I did look at ECU Army. Army's 6-0, but at some point in the American Diesel, does Army have a hiccup?
Well, is the moment too big for them getting ranked for the first time with Navy since I believe it's 1960?
Long time. They're 15-point favorites, Diesel. They're 15-point favorites over the Pirates. I don't think this is going to be my pick, but East Carolina, it's intriguing, right? I feel like East Carolina's due. I really do. I don't mean like due in terms of finally getting over the hump. I'm saying they're due for 2024 of winning a game they're not supposed to win. They normally do that. They have not done that this season. I did look at that one.
Yeah. To Madcraft's point there, liking Georgia Southern over James Madison. James Madison is an up and down kind of football team, right? Usually after a big performance, they follow it up with a dud. And it kind of got,
what's the spread on that game, Matt?
10.5 points as of right now.
Favoring JMU.
In favor of JMU on the road at Georgia Southern. Man, they've been having some attendance issues. I'm not looking for a phenomenal atmosphere in Statesboro this weekend. I'm not sure it's going to happen for Georgia Southern this weekend. I don't think James Madison follows up what was a really good performance, a 39-7 home blowout last Thursday night. But then again, James Madison is rested.
Yeah. Texter Diesel said Georgia Tech's not playing at home. They're playing in the Mercedes Dome.
Oh, excuse me.
There will be 70-30 split Notre Dame fans. That's why they're playing in the Dome, says the texter. He says Notre Dame by 21.
Well, that just sucks for this game to be played.
This is the game that should have been played over in Ireland. This game, not Georgia Tech, Florida State. This is the one that should be in Ireland. I mean, what are we doing?
Should have been.
And, I don't hate that Michigan-Illinois pick. But, again, 3 points. What am I going to do picking a 3-point game right now? I mean, what good is that going to do? We also talked about Army, but on the flip side, maybe the moment's too big for Navy. They're playing a 2-0 Charlotte team. 2-0 in the American. Maybe. I'm telling you, it wouldn't surprise me, Diesel, for one of the two to lose this weekend.
What's the world coming to, Cole, where App State sucks and Charlotte is good?
But I just remember a few weeks ago, Charlotte having a ton of injuries. And I mean a ton of injuries. So, I don't know that again, though, talking about making a splash, 17 points, Diesel. 17 is what Navy's favored by over Charlotte.
I couldn't pick Navy because Charlotte to upset Navy because I picked Navy to upset Memphis earlier this year, and it would feel like I was cheating on Navy. I couldn't make myself do it. Navy's really good.
Yeah.
Navy's really good. They're so consistent on offense. I mean, look at this last 5 games they played where they have put up 34, 41, 56, and 38.
Hey, where's Texas? Is Texas State one of the best teams in the Sun Belt?
Texas State is good.
Is there any chance that Old Dominion beats them at home? It's at Old Dominion. It's a 10-point game. I did look at that one. They expect it to be pretty high scoring. I don't know. I was just thinking maybe if Old Dominion could kind of slow it down a little bit, maybe they'd have a chance. But I don't have a ton of confidence. Again, 10-point game.
It's hard to say. I mean, they beat Bowling Green by a field goal. They beat Georgia State in a low-scoring football game by a touchdown on the road. Georgia State, first year of a new head coach and a program that's never really been worth much. I don't have faith in Old Dominion.
Yeah.
I don't. I just genuinely don't.
Now, here's one of my serious ones.
Mm-hmm.
At some point this season, Diesel, I'm going to pick against Lincoln Riley. I don't know if it'll be this weekend or not, but at some point I'm going to because they stink. They're 3-3 on the season, 1-3 in the Big Ten. They play Maryland Saturday. They're at Maryland. Maryland's not good, but Maryland 0-3 in the Big Ten. You would think at some point Maryland would get a Big Ten win. It's at Maryland, like I said. The Trojans are favored by 7, which just is embarrassing. Like if they're where they were supposed to be, they'd be favored by 14. Yeah. However, they're not. I did look at that one. I don't have a ton of faith in Maryland because they stink.
Maryland's defense is getting burnt this year. They're getting burnt badly. I want to see if it's through the passing game or if it's through the rushing game, but they're getting blown up.
And again, going back to Billy's Mississippi State A&M game, I don't know that I trust Mississippi State 2 weeks in a row. I mean, they scored 31 on Georgia, 34, whatever it was. I don't hate that pick, Billy. It's at Mississippi State. I get that, but again, I think Texas A&M just has the better dudes. I really do.
Texter says, speaking of the Sun Belt, take Georgia State over Marshall for 9 points. After the debacle Saturday, Marshall team is done. Texter, fill us in on that. I'm not sure what it is you're talking about Marshall on Saturday.
Wasn't the fight, was it? Well, that wasn't Marshall. What was it? No, was it Rice and Texters? Help me out. I saw it on ESPN late Saturday night. It was Rice and somebody. Yeah, it was a big fight in the Rice game. Did you see how bad that one got?
No,
it was bad. It was really, really bad.
Marshall lost to Georgia Southern last week, 24-3.
Okay.
If there was more going on in that game that I don't know about, Texter, let us know.
Here's one that I'm looking at. Last one for now. And again, we'll make our picks tomorrow. But Diesel, American, 7:30 on Saturday. Memphis is favored by 10 over North Texas. North Texas is 5-1. They're 2-0 in the American. I'm just saying, maybe Memphis, slips up. They're 1-1 in conference. I did look at that one. 10 points would be nice. Again, that one's in Memphis. I tell you this, man, this week's tough. I have not made my pick. I have not found one that I like. And again, if I did, it wouldn't matter. I suck at this challenge. But I'm telling you, man, this week there are some challenging ones out there and a lot of low point spreads as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting into the heart of conference schedule now. We're getting into, teams that everybody's familiar with. Everybody's sort of settling in. We're starting to understand who these teams really are. Yeah. That's what makes these kind of weeks tough. Once you get down to the second half of the season, scoring in this challenge is hard.
Oh, Texter said Marshall lost 24-23 after being up 23-3.
Oh,
God.
Oh, ooh, yeah,
that's rough.
Did they adopt Georgia's defense for the second half or Alabama's defense for the second half?
Oh boy, Texter Drew L says ring the cowbell, Diesel.
What does that mean? Oh, that's the stupid thing that they do in Mississippi State. Is that what you're talking about, Texter?
Probably so. Who'd you say App State had?
App State is on a bye this week, so they can't lose.
So can we take App State?
Statistically, they can't lose this weekend. Believe it or not.
Texter says, fan, can you read the top 10 in standings. That's Buckeye Brian. Diesel, do you have that in front of you?
Buckeye Brian just wants to hear his own name.
Is he in the top 10?
He is in the top 10. Buckeye Brian is in the top 10. Okay, so it's number 1, Twisted Whisker with 56.5. Number 2, Noel, 51.5. Number 3, John Dog has 44 points.
God, that's impressive.
Buckeye Brian, you are in 4th place with 38.5 points. Josh Pate is in 5th with 36. That's the top 5.
I'm telling you, man. Oh, he said, Diesel, I gave you a cowbell with the wrap snacks.
Oh, that's right. Oh, that was awesome, man. We spent like a week, Cole, just eating potato chips live on
Wrap
the air.
snacks are great, by the way.
They are
They
great.
really are.
They're delicious.
I don't know how we got on that.
Where is it? It's got to be
The
in there
cowbell?
somewhere. I think it's in my office.
I hadn't seen it. I think it is too. Actually, I do.
I know I've seen it recently.
I didn't steal it, I promise.
Well, maybe somebody else did on his way out.
Shane Beamer. He spoke to the media today. We'll get into what he said next. Shane Beamer spoke to the media today, as did Dabo Sweeney. We'll probably get to Dabo tomorrow, but Shane Beamer first today. We'll put Shane first for once. We always go winners first, Diesel, but we'll be nice to Beamer today. We'll do a good old listen and react as we do with Shane Beamer, see what he said about Alabama, as well as what he thinks about the Sooners. We talked about it yesterday. Is it a must-win game? Gamecock fans, what do you think? 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Is this a must-win game for the Gamecocks? Let's listen to the head ball coach, Shane Beamer, courtesy of the University of South Carolina Media. Thankfully, they put this on the website each week. Well, maybe we will. Maybe we won't. Maybe Diesel will have to do his best Shane Beamer impression. It's not wanting to play for whatever reason.
Do you want me to punt this water bottle across this room?
Oh,
I can do that.
That's rough. That's rough, Diesel. That is rough. For whatever reason, the audio not wanting to play, but I'll work on that. But we can answer the question while the audio fixes. If it does fix, we might get to it. Is it a must-win game? Is that fair to say?
It's absolutely a must-win game. The question you could ask, Cole, and I intend to ask this question coming up at 5:20 of Jordan Kaye.
Okay.
If South Carolina turns in the exact same performance that they did this past week in Tuscaloosa against Oklahoma, what will the outcome of the game be? Yeah, because there was a lot of good, there was a lot of bad.
Yeah, there was
in that game. I went back today, and I always like to refresh myself and watch the highlights of the games after the fact. And man, I saw two really good football teams.
Yeah.
Going at each other, throwing haymakers, but they also missed on a whole lot of haymakers. I compared it to if Rocky from Rocky 1 was fighting himself.
No, I like that. And I agree with you. I think it is a must win. I think the audio is good now. Let's hear from Shane Beamer.
He said, thanks for coming out. I know I mentioned it in the teleconference on Sunday night, but just one more time, wanted to send our prayers to the North Carolina football team and the family of Tylee Craft on that tragic loss. Puts things so much in perspective, and did not know him, but obviously hits close to home with him being from Sumter and a high school teammate of O'Donnell Fortune and Nate Harris Wainick. So praying for that family and praying for the Tar Heel community and hurt for them as well. New week for us, great challenge ahead of us going out to Norman and the University of Oklahoma. Got a ton of respect for Coach Venables. Obviously, what he did at Clemson speaks for itself, and what he's doing out in Oklahoma speaks for itself. Got a fantastic defense, very opportunistic. I think they're number 7 in the country in takeaways defensively, so they do a great job of flying around and creating turnovers. They've got really talented guys at all 3 levels of their defense. Offensively, I know they've played 2 different quarterbacks, but both equally talented and have had some injuries at the wide receiver position. But I see a group on tape. It's really impressive how hard they're playing in all 3 phases. That's a testament to Coach Venables and the culture that he's created. And they're coming off a disappointing performance last week and our disappointing outcome, just like we are as well. So we need to respond the right way and be ready to go on Saturday morning at 11:45 Central Time out in Norman. So eager for that opportunity. Our guys had a good day of practice today. Like the way they've responded so far coming off the disappointment of last Saturday, and need to finish out the week on the right track and get ready to go play a really good football team on Saturday.
Any issues with his opening remarks about facing Oklahoma on Saturday?
No, I mean he did kind of the normal platitudes to a coach that you've watched from across the field and that you played against in the past, saying all the right things without saying anything untoward or bulletin board material. I mean, he pointed it out that both of these both of these teams are sitting in similar positions, that they are both coming off of disappointing performances, very different styles of disappointing performances. Oklahoma got boat raced by Texas. South Carolina was in a dogfight against Alabama. And, I know it's our job to sit here and have opinions, Cole, and to try to find nuance in every little element that's going on with a team. But I genuinely don't know which South Carolina team is going to show up.
Well, I understand that. And again, I guess Diesel, the only, and I think there was someone in the stream yesterday that said the exact same thing. And before I get to my comments on what Beamer said, the only thing I would say to that is the only bad game they had prior to Alabama that they lost was Ole Miss. So up until that Alabama loss, you could argue that they've had one bad game. There was no repetition in terms of them having an up and down type season. It was one bad game. That's the only pushback I would say.
Well, to me, South Carolina is losing football games not because there's a talent deficiency. We've spent a lot of time singing the praises of Mazeo Bennett, singing the praises of Rocket Sanders. Lenore Sellers is just a little bit turnover prone right now. This team is a little bit turnover prone right now. It's not a deficiency in talent. It's some sort of a deficiency in focus. Yep. That is the issue. South Carolina is beating themselves outside of the Ole Miss game. South Carolina is beating themselves with a lot of bad penalties. And that's one of those things that it either becomes a part of the culture of your team. It is who you are at that point, or you correct it. And I haven't found that South Carolina has the ability to correct it yet.
Yeah, Beamer's point about Venables, and you said it. He's going to talk him up, right? That's what coaches do. The only thing I'd push back on is him talking about the culture that Venables has created. I'm not so sure that culture's there yet. I don't know that it is. I don't know that there's much of a culture in place in Norman yet. Will there be? Maybe one day, but let's not act like Venables is, came out and been world beaters in his first 2 years. All right, more from Shane Beamer.
Questions?
Any questions?
Shane, you mentioned Brent Venables. He's always been known as a guy who really excels at getting other.
David Cloninger of the Post and Courier
used to work to his advantage. So how are you guys planning to combat that, not give anything easy to scout?
Yeah, I think sometimes that can be overrated in a lot of ways. There's no question it happens. I'm not necessarily saying with them, but I mean, it happens across college football every single Saturday. So it's something that we're always aware of, David. We go fast at times. We huddle at times. We don't huddle at times. Defensively, they've got I think what they do a really good job of is seeing the formation that you're in and then being able to call defenses based off seeing what you're in. So we got to do a good job of trying to keep them off balance. Their defensive coordinator was at Jacksonville State last year. So we played Jacksonville State last year, and now he's the defensive coordinator out in Norman as well. So that's something for us offensively and defensively every single Saturday that we're always aware of.
And one injury question, Jakai Moore, is there any chance he might be able to come back this year?
I would say that's doubtful. At this point. We'll see what the future holds, but at this point, would say doubtful.
Hey, Shane, you guys have had a few of these close losses now, LSU, Alabama. Just how close do you feel like this team is
Jack Veltri, by the way,
getting to where it wants to go and finishing off these games? And is there a final step in your eyes that you see that needs to be taken for you guys to get there?
Yeah, I think we're extremely close. Was it 2 losses to top 10 teams by a total of 5 points? I think I'm saying that right. And we had plenty of opportunities in both those games to win it. The thing we've got to do a great job of is finishing. There's a lot of things that are disappointing about those games, but probably the biggest thing for me is just that in both those games, we led going into the fourth quarter. Now, I know LSU scored on the very first play of the fourth quarter, and I think they were like on the 3-yard line, so maybe there's an asterisk next to that one. But if I'm not mistaken, Steve can tell you those are the first 2 times in my time as the head coach that we've ever lost a game that we led going into the fourth quarter, and it's happened twice now. So we've got to finish. How do we finish? We play cleaner football, and we can look back at Saturday in Tuscaloosa, and there's so many opportunities on all 3 phases, offense, defense, and special teams, that we had opportunities to finish that game and not even let it get to a final drive. And a lot of those things are, self-inflicted, whether it be penalties, turnovers, you name it. So we got to you guys know I'm a big fan of Mike Tomlin, and somebody sent me his clip at halftime of I think it was the Cowboys game a couple weeks ago in his post-game interview where they asked him, what do you got to do in the second half? And he said something along the lines of, we got to quit kicking our own butt before we worry about kicking somebody else's. And we've had a lot of that this year. We've got to just continue to be better and grow and learn and get better each and every week. And I see a lot of signs of that. So to answer your question, I think we're extremely close, but we also know that the margin for error in this league especially is extremely small.
Diesel, I think he's 100% right with that answer. I think in those two games, LSU and Alabama, I think South Carolina did beat themselves. And that's why Gamecock fans should feel so sick, right? Because they were so close to LSU and Alabama. And to Shane's point, they did beat themselves. He's 100% correct. And I don't think people understand this enough. The margin for error when you play in the SEC, it is so thin. You can't make the type of mistakes that South Carolina's made in these big games. If they can get out of their way, Diesel, they're going to be a good team. They are a good team.
Well, there's a reason why you got a whole lot of zeros on your paycheck, Cole. There's a reason why you make $6.125 million a year. If you're Shane Beamer at the University of South Carolina, you get paid that kind of money because you're expected to overcome those razor thin margins for error. It's extremely difficult.
It is.
No one is saying that it's easy, right? I mean, I heard that question where the reporter asked, what do you think you need to do when you're that close? And we almost could have had a Jerry Jones moment where Jerry Jones says, well, if you think you know the answer, why don't you, come out from behind your laptop and come over here and you fix the problems. Okay. Yeah. I get where Shane's coming from. The margin of error is extremely thin. He knows that his team is beating himself. I appreciate the fact that he's not blaming the refs, that he's not blaming the wrong people. So he understands that it's on him. That's his job to clean up those mistakes.
It is.
And you can't ever completely eliminate all the mistakes. I mean, I don't know how often it's ever happened or how many times it happens in a college football season where a team goes out there and commits 0 penalties, right? Yeah. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So your job is to reduce those mistakes as much as you can and make sure they don't happen at inopportune times.
The last thing I'll say, and then we move on. I know we have the Daily Wires and the Tolo Takeover coming up. By the way, Tolos, 20 minutes from now, Tolo Takeover. Don't miss out. Tolo Takeover, 20 minutes from right now. The last thing I'll say, I don't disagree with you that Beamer has to finish, but at some point, Diesel, my only thing is those players, those young pups have to grow up. Those young players have to grow up if they're going to win these games. You can't put it all on Shane Beamer. You can't put it all on Dow Loggins. The players playing the game have to grow up and stop becoming, the victim of your own circumstance and being these small pups, grasping for milk. Grow up and be the dog and go win the game.
Yeah, I mean, coaches do all kinds of things to try to eliminate penalties. If you've got a team who holds a lot, I saw, was it Shane Beamer's staff or somebody recently said that they would tape 2 tennis balls inside the hands of their guys so that they could not grab a hold of jerseys. Right. So it teaches you to keep your hands flat when you're blocking instead of grabbing on. So it's not like they're just going out there and saying, hey guys, we need you to hold less this week. No, they actually take steps to teach the guys how not to hold. The problem is you can't put tennis balls in their hands in the game. It's illegal. Well, probably, right? I assume it's illegal. You can't do that.
Yeah, we assume.
So, we'll see. We'll see if the South Carolina Gamecocks can turn it around this weekend, play a cleaner brand of football. If they play the way they played against Alabama and just clean up 1 or 2 little mistakes,
they got a chance.
They could look really good on the road against Oklahoma. When we come back, it's time to take a whip around the sports world. Our Daily Wires next. time, Cole, to take a whip around the sports world. Head on a swivel. What's going on out there in the world? We call these our daily wires. Here's what's happening. Davante Adams has officially been traded to the New York Jets. He and Aaron Rodgers are reunited. They can go cuddle up, be best friends again.
We think. I just don't know that it's going to make that big of a difference. Davante Adams is an incredible player, but we shall see.
Yeah, that's like a mystery that we all knew. We could all see it coming from a mile away.
Yeah.
And finally, it's done. We can stop talking about it. Hawaii will become a full member of the Mountain West Conference in 2026. This is according to Athletic Director Craig Angelos. He said that's going to give the league 8 members. It's the required number of members to remain an FBS conference. This realignment is fun. I enjoy it. I enjoyed it in the sense of how can we right some historical wrongs where somebody has left a conference? Can we bring somebody back in? Can we bring in a school that it has come up really, really quickly? I don't like this, Cole. I don't like how the Big Ten gutted the Pac-12. The Pac-12 gutted the Mountain West. The Mountain West is gutting the West Coast Conference. I mean, crap always rolls downhill, but
It's
I don't
weird.
Like it. I don't like it. Clemson has opened as a 21.5-point favorite over Virginia on Saturday. We had a texter get in and say, I've been reading this wrong for so long. He texted in, are Clemson seriously 21.5-point dogs? No, texter. They are not 21.5-point dogs. They are favorites. If you see a minus next to the number, it means that team is the favorite.
That's right.
Which it does seem opposite and counter. It should say 22. If it says plus 22, you should think, well, they think this team is 22 points better than that team.
You'd think.
So I understand how it's a little confusing, texter. South Carolina has opened as 3.5-point underdogs against Oklahoma. The line moved to 3 points as of today. A lot of people looking at that South Carolina performance against Alabama saying, well, Oklahoma is not what Alabama is. If South Carolina stays the same, there's a good chance they win that football game.
I think so. I really do. I think they have a good shot. They've gotta play clean football.
Over the weekend here in the state of South Carolina, Furman lost to Chattanooga 41-10. Wofford beat VMI 31-16. Anderson defeated UVA Wise 20-13, and North Greenville lost to Valdosta State 32-24. Wofford is showing themselves, Cole, as the class of the small schools in the state of South Carolina.
They're not looking bad, man.
No,
they're not looking bad. And I believe, Diesel, tell me if I'm wrong. Are we going to have some Furman tickets to give away again today?
As a matter of fact, we are. We'll have them coming up at the tail end of the very next segment on the show. So be listening around 5:15 or so for your cue to call in for those tickets. The Fan Upstate Player of the Week for Week 7 is Reese Price from Wren High School. He's going to join us on the show right here at 6:40. So be listening for that. Number 2, Oregon had 12 men on the field late in their 32-31 win over Ohio State. It resulted in a penalty, which wasted 4 seconds off the clock. Turns out it was on purpose.
Of course it was.
Cole. Yeah, this is fascinating. Dan Lanning was asked the question, Cole, about did he do it on purpose? Was it something that they planned for? And here is what Dan Lanning had to say.
Much of the commentary world has decided and struck you as a genius, Stan, for the 12-man penalty and declared that it was intentional. Was it indeed intentional to induce the throw one-on-one against Jabbar in that spot?
It wasn't one-on-one. We actually had a safety on top. So there was so it's called dog. It's when you play, but he wasn't in extremely tight coverage, but he was in dog coverage where he had safety on top of him. And there was a timeout before that. We spent an inordinate amount of time on situations. There's some situations that don't show up very often in college football, but this is one that obviously was something that we had worked on. So you can see the result.
He's so smart. I love it. I love it. That's gamesmanship.
He's saying all this with a smirk on his face.
Yeah.
I like Dan Lanning. I like Dan Lanning. The NCAA is examining that play, and it could lead to some in-season action. Cole.
Come on.
Steve Shaw, the NCAA Secretary of Rules editor, told Yahoo Sports that the crew handled the play appropriately, but they are discussing a way to address it as fair play, whether or not it's fair play. The result may be take the yards or put time back on the clock.
That's so
for the coach.
stupid. Come on, that was fair.
It was fair, but it was something that it was a way to exploit the rule that nobody had ever used before or thought of before. It just worked out for Oregon in that situation.
It did. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But if the rule's there and if the loophole is there, rather, and they're able to do so, I don't have a problem. All right, Tolos, it's your chance to make a promo. It's your chance to become famous in the upstate. What do I mean? Tolo Takeover, Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Well, I don't know if you've looked at your watch, but it's Tuesday, and it's almost 5 p.m. Your chance to take over these airwaves, sound off. If you're upset about something or just want to rant or have some great news, you can take over next. Diesel, I've never claimed to be able to read palms or anything. I've never claimed to be able to read the future, but I can tell you, I'm going to read the future here. What's going to happen, Tolos? And I see you, Dale. I see Tolos already lined up. What's going to happen with this Tolo takeover is it's going to become so big. The Tolos are going to fight every single week on who has the best beef, take, whatever it may be, as they take over these airwaves. And you and I are going to have to start giving a crown away every week because this thing's going to become so competitive. Eventually, it's going to get sponsored because it's going to be the most talked about segment in upstate radio. And this segment, 3 months from now, oh, I'm telling you, it's going to be so big. I'm never discounting the Tolos, but I don't know if they can top what we've had over the last few weeks.
I got something to say. I saw some stuff on the internet that really got me going.
By God, if I don't get that extra cup of sauce, I'm coming back in. I ain't waiting in line. I'm going to let you know right now. I've already waited my turn. I've already went through your line. I've already did everything that I'm supposed to do.
What really ticks me off when he speaks, not because he's the Clemson football coach, but when he speaks about an ACC game, he makes it seem like it's some big ordeal. Dabo, your schedule sucks.
And I am pissed off today, okay? It took me 1 hour to get $14.65 worth of gas.
Y'all need to be fired.
So those are a few highlights from previous Tolo takeovers, Diesel. It's only getting bigger. It's only getting better, and that continues today. 15 minutes from now, though, we will give away some Furman Paladin football tickets.
Yeah,
but
4
first,
tickets to homecoming.
Is that, again, this Saturday.
This Saturday.
Free FREE tickets to the Furman Paladin football game, Diesel, coming up. You have to be the 5th caller. Is that right?
That's correct. We're going to do caller number 5 again today. And that game, by the way, will be at 2 p.m.
There you go.
2 p.m. kick.
2 p.m. Tolos, it's time for you to take over these airwaves. If you have something to rant about, you can do so now. Diesel has something to rant about. I have something to rant about. We're going to go to Dale, but first, Diesel, I want to give you the floor first. What possibly do you have to rant about today?
Well, this is an easy one. This is something that a lot of Americans are pissed off about. Insurance companies not paying out when they ought to. So, Cole, there was a day about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago that I wasn't here. I wasn't here because we lost a pet and we were dealing with taking a pet to the vet back and forth.
Yeah.
And then obviously dealing with the uncomfortable and terrible decision of having to put a pet down. And look, medical, everything is expensive. When you add animals to it, it seems like it makes it more expensive. You get pet insurance specifically to deal with situations like this, to take the stress away. But Cole, we've been sitting on a claim now for almost a month. And they say all claims are going to be dealt with in 7 to 10 business days. We've now been sitting on it for a month.
And last time I checked, a month's more than 7 days.
Yeah,
right?
It is. And our claim, preliminarily at least, has been denied. So not only are we dealing with the loss of a pet, which sucks.
It does suck.
We're also dealing with something that is very, very expensive, Cole, that has the chance to put my wife and I, Ashley, in a very deep financial hole.
You should tell them
Sucks.
if they don't do what's right, we're going to bash them on the radio.
We'll do.
We're going to bash them.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what our boss is. We're going to bash them.
Step up and do the right thing.
That's right.
Would you?
I agree with you.
Help people out. It's hard enough losing a pet. It's hard enough paying the crazy fees and doctor's bills. But then to have a company who you pay for this very reason to tell you, no, sorry, you're not getting a dime back for this. So that's my rant, dealing with insurance companies. And I know any Tolo who's ever had a parent whose health has gone downhill has dealt with insurance companies. And a lot of our Tolos have dealt with their own health issues as well. Insurance companies suck. They don't exist to serve you. They exist to find reasons not to serve you.
Tolos, we have one line remaining as of right now. The Tolos are in a line. They're ready to take over the airwaves. We'll first go to Dell for today's Tolo takeover. Dell, what's on your mind?
I want to start with the handful of NFL owners who have guaranteed these fully guaranteed contracts to these quarterbacks that are producing jack squat. Trevor Lawrence, 1 win. Tua Tagovailoa can't see the field. Doesn't leaps on the field a lot, but can't see the field. We've already won over Dak yesterday. Deshaun Watson. There's so many bad quarterbacks. There's so much bad quarterback play and so much guaranteed money that they don't care anymore. Bring back the incentive-based contract. Make these players earn their money instead of just giving it to them, and we might see some better football. Now, it's not affecting me in fantasy.
Did I?
I think we might have lost you, Dale, there for a second. Dale, I think we got you back. Are you back with us, Dale?
Might have been my mistake. Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry, Dale. Did we lose Dale?
I think we lost Dale.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dale.
Sorry, Dale. Call back in. We'll get you back up.
If you do call back in, Dale, we'll put you back. That might have been my mistake. I didn't mean to cut him off. I promise. I didn't disagree.
He was getting on a rant.
He was. Dale,
he was doing well.
My apologies. We'll keep the line moving, though, Dale. If you want to hop back in, I did mistakenly cut you off. You know, again, it's Cole and technology. Tom, next up on the Tolo Takeover. What's up, Tom?
You know, as Dale was saying about these quarterbacks, this morning I went into the gas station and I was getting me something to drink for work, and this guy in front of me was taking his time. And it was starting to aggravate me. And I was like, what's going on, man? Like, sure enough, turns around, has a Clemson shirt on. And he said, I'm sorry, I'm just getting some lottery tickets so I can maybe put some money on the Tigers this week. And I said, bro, you play Charlottesville School of the Deaf and Blind. Why are you going to put money on it? And he said, well, I want to parlay my winnings on the Jaguars because of Trevor Lawrence. And I said, bro, Clemson's got 2 of the worst quarterbacks in the league right now. Meanwhile, Spencer Rattler's about to ball out. It just ticked me off, but that's all I really got to say. Go Gamecocks! Clemson still sucks.
Thanks, Tom. You never know. I mean, Tom is like a box of chocolates, Diesel. You never know what you're going to get with Tom. You really don't.
No, Tom is a single flavor pack because Tom is going to call in.
That's right.
And he's going to say, go Gamecocks. And he's going to find a way to bash the Tigers every single time.
I love it. Dale, again, if you want to call back in, you can. I did lose you. Also, Dean, I lost you as well. I didn't do it that time, though, Dean. I believe we lost you on your end. So, Dell and Dean, if you want to get back in, you can. I have mine. I have one that I'm really upset about. But first, let's go to JD. What's up, JD?
What's going on, gentlemen? What's going on, gentlemen?
What's up, man?
It is time to bring smoke.
Let's hear
Johnny
it.
James, minus 40 so far this year in the wins above replacement. He is the lowest of 434 players to achieve this stat in the preseason. Yet, you want your own Call of Duty skin? You and LeBron are reaching out to Call of Duty to get your own skin? Listen, bro, quit the NBA and go be a Call of Duty professional PlayStation player.
What is a skin?
I don't care.
What is a skin, JD?
It's some kind of uniform or something where they make the player look like themselves or something. I don't know.
He wants to put his NIL into the game.
That's beside the point.
Well, I didn't know. I'm not a video
Bronny.
gamer.
Right. Well, Bronny, you need to focus on being a shooter of the basketball and not a shooter of people in a video game. Y'all have a good one. Be blessed.
JD's tore up about Bronny James, man.
JD also didn't thank us for taking his call.
I think he's I remember that was his beef last week.
Is he protesting against that?
On the Tolo takeovers, he's opposed to thinking. Well, I like it. He's pushing the envelope. All right, I think we got Dell back. Dell, my apologies. I didn't disagree with what you were saying. I hit the wrong button, which does happen from time to time. Continue, please.
It was
sir.
just too painful, Dale. You were like this close to going off on Jerry and Dak, and it was too painful for Cole to listen
I
to.
believe it, but
see, here's the thing. I'm a Cowboy fan, too. Now I've got beef with the radio guy who cut me off.
Sorry, Dale.
Oh, Cole, I thought we were brothers from another mother, man.
Yeah, we are. Your colored glasses aren't as bad.
You're Cowboys fans. There's a good chance you are related.
Right. Well, no, that's from Alabama fans, but we won't go there. All right. This quarterback play this year in particular has been awful, and it's because all of these quarterbacks have their money already, so they have nothing to play for. I mean, how many guaranteed contracts got passed out? Joe Burrow got his. Look at him. They're 1 in what, 5? I mean, this is bad. I don't think I've seen quarterback play this bad since I can remember. And I'm talking like growing up in the late 80s, early 90s, and quarterback play wasn't this bad.
So you think they're just giving it to all the bad ones? I mean, you don't think it's a coincidence?
No, I think they've got their money. They don't feel like they've got to play anymore because what are they going to do? You can't cut them because of the dead cap. You'll ruin the team that way. They're stuck with them. That's why Cleveland shopped off Amari Brown. They're like, shoot, we're stuck with Deshaun. We might as well try to get some help somewhere else.
I know. Listen, it's very concerning, right, that the state of the NFL is tied up in the quarterback money.
Have you ever heard of the concept of like the married 15? It's where you get married, you know you got it locked down now, so you stop trying so much, right? You put on that 15 pounds, you get a little chunky around the midsection.
50,
yeah.
I mean, but, okay, so to that aspect, why are the owners not demanding more from their players?
You know, listen, man,
because it's guaranteed.
And they're not doing it. I've got to replace them.
It's guaranteed. There's nothing they can do.
But also, Dale, in the NFL, regardless of how good they are or are not, if you have a quarterback that gives you a chance to win games, you'll overpay for them. That's their MO, right?
That's the MO, but at what point in time are the game? I mean, right now you've got about 6 teams that have to throw away the season.
Yeah.
Cleveland's already done it. Jacksonville's there because there's no way they can come back in that division. The Jets with Aaron Rodgers have a chance, but they've only tied into him for 1 more year. Dak's got 4 years beyond this year. You know, the Eagles are tied into Jalen Hurts, and he had a little bit better game this year, but he's still, I mean, a lot to be proven there. And Nick Sirianni's, you know,
So Dale, I'm going to tell you, here's where all this stems from, okay? It stems from every player in the NFL wanting to be the highest paid guy. And if you can't be the highest paid guy, you're going to go after a fully guaranteed contract. And once one guy gets a fully guaranteed contract, everybody wants a fully guaranteed contract. It's not because these players are good. It's because their agents are good. Agents are way, way, way too powerful in the NFL, and bad franchises, bad ownership, bad GMs make bad decisions, and they throw bad money at bad football players. That's what's happening here. It's becoming the trend to become the next guy to get the contract gets the biggest contract. The next guy is also going to get a fully guaranteed contract. It's just one-upsmanship from one player to the next. And hey, I love watching terrible franchises make terrible decisions. Smart franchises don't do this, and they don't end up in the same position that Cleveland and Dallas are in.
And before we get to Johnny, the only thing I will push back on what you just said. I'll disagree, Diesel. I don't think you can say that the agents are good and the players aren't good. The players are good. They're just not performing after they get the contract. I think it's a little unfair to say they aren't good because if they weren't good, they wouldn't be playing in the NFL. They're not performing after they make their money, right? They're dropping the ball after they make their money. And to Dale's point, it's a huge problem.
So to what you just said, Dak couldn't win in the playoffs. Great in the regular season, couldn't win in the playoffs. Why would you throw a max contract? Why would you throw guaranteed money at a guy who can't get you where you want to be? He's good in the regular season, can't win in the playoffs. Deshaun Watson, he was coming off of a scandal where he hadn't played in 18 months.
Yeah.
And you still threw a max contract at him. That's because the agents are that good at demanding those things and going out and getting those things. Trevor Lawrence Trevor Lawrence has been mediocre at best. He's been probably closer to bad in the NFL, yet you still threw a massive contract at him. These are GMs and owners making rash, bad decisions to keep a guy that's not actually that good anyway.
Well, I don't disagree with your philosophy. I just say when you say they're not good, I think they are good. They made it to the NFL. They're just not elite. They're not the elites of the elites. That's my point. Johnny wants to chime in on the Tolo takeover before we give away 4 Furman tickets. Johnny, what's up, man?
Hey, guys, I got a gripe today. I'm assuming you guys play fantasy football. If you don't, you should. But it's obviously very weird that the president of the Fantasy Football League somehow gets every trade to go their way. Not knowing, I don't know. I'm not making any accusations. But listen here, I lost this week because of some basically some teaming up on me because I am the best fantasy football player that has ever graced God's earth. But pretty much, we had Isaiah Likely get traded for Derrick Henry, which led to another trade for Derrick Henry, Chris Olave to go, and they got Jamar Chase and David Montgomery, and I lost because of this trade.
That the owner allowed to happen.
You know who it was? Who I'm playing?
No, who was it?
It's Tom. Tom cheats in fantasy, and I need everybody to know Tom cheats in fantasy. He's
Tom.
a cheater. And then also the second reason I lost is because Dak Prescott put up 5 points, and I'm going to have a word with him. So I sent him a DM on Instagram. Hopefully he opens it up. I'm going to need some better play.
Thanks for the call, Johnny.
Thank you, Johnny.
Easily send him a DM on Instagram so all the fantasy football hopes are still alive.
Cole, here's some breaking news, and we appreciate JD for bringing this to our attention. This is just breaking. As of about 12 minutes ago, Tom Brady's bid to purchase a minority stake in the Las Vegas Raiders was approved by NFL team owners today.
Of course it was.
He will take approximately 5% control of the Raiders.
The Raiders. I like it. However, that makes it interesting now when he broadcasts those Raiders games, he can't broadcast.
Are they going to not let him broadcast Raiders games anymore?
I don't think so.
Interesting.
All right, Diesel's time to win some tickets, right?
It is. You want to win 4 tickets to this weekend's homecoming game between Furman and Western Carolina, 2 p.m. kickoff in Travelers Rest. Here's your chance. 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663, the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone line. Be caller number 5 to score those tickets. Caller number 5 going to win 4 tickets to this week's Furman homecoming game against Western Carolina. 844-326-3663 to start getting in the queue to possibly win these tickets. When we come back, Cole, we're going to go to the phone lines and bring on Jordan Kaye of the State Newspaper, who covers the South Carolina Gamecocks. We'll break down the Alabama game and do a little preview of the Oklahoma game. That's next on the Fan Upstates. Oh, we got some Tolo on Tolo violence.
Oh boy,
I love it.
it is great.
I love it.
5 o'clock or the Tolo takeover really produces the best of the Tolos, right?
Who was called out? Was it Tom that
Tom
was called
out. Now he's upset.
Was called out for cheating. He replied in, "I do not cheat. I do not cheat." All caps. Another league member sent me the trade, likely for Henry. If someone is stupid enough to send it, who wouldn't make their team better? I'm glad that we're bringing on some cooler heads because the temperature is getting a little hot in here. Jordan Kaye of the state newspaper who covers South Carolina joins us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. First of all, Jordan, we appreciate you taking the time. I don't know if you've ever had a fantasy football situation get as heated as what we're dealing with here in the studios, but if you've got any tips to cool it down, let us know.
What happened? I wasn't listening. What happened?
Apparently, one of the league owners is allowing some trades that shouldn't be allowed to benefit their own teams. Let's just say that. And, it's turned ugly on Wire to Wire.
Wow. No, I have not. We're in a dynasty. So, you could maybe take picks away for the next year.
Interesting.
Get all Spygate on them.
Speaking of Tom Brady.
Hey.
Yeah. Jordan, we appreciate you hopping on, man. Listen, South Carolina, we all know what happened on Saturday in Tuscaloosa. It's 2 games now where South Carolina feels like they just almost had it, right? Like the old commercial with the guy in the fishing pole. Shane Beamer said today that they're very, very close when talking about where this team is. What, in your opinion, gets them from close to over the hump?
It's just limiting the turnovers. I mean, that's all it is. And, I think some people want to make it into a bigger deal of, hey, you've got to finish these games and finishing comes down to blah, 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 blah. But, I mean, the reality is they win the LSU game if they don't fumble late in the fourth quarter. They probably win this Alabama game if Lenore Sellers doesn't fumble in his own territory. Or even if that interception doesn't come down and, maybe they kick a field goal. So it's just the turnovers. I mean, they just beat themselves too much. And Shane Beamer kind of shared a quote today, before you can kick anyone's butt, you got to, you can't kick your own butt. It was like something like that. Basically you can't beat yourself and then beat another team as well. So that's basically what South Carolina's problem is. Just keep beating itself too much. And it's hard to do that and then also win a game.
Talking South Carolina Gamecocks with Jordan Kaye of the state newspaper. The offensive line looked really solid at times against a good defensive front of Alabama. The pocket broke down a couple of times, but we certainly saw Lenore Sellers getting rid of the ball quickly, again, at times, not great consistently every single possession, but we did see some good play there. Would you call the offensive line the most improved unit on the field for South Carolina?
On Saturday?
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I mean, they still gave up 4 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, something like that. I would say if we're going to point to a group that looked better, we got to look at the wide receivers. This was a group against Ole Miss that probably couldn't get like 2 feet of space on most plays, just looked completely overmatched. And some of that was because of Ole Miss's defense they were playing, just extremely soft coverage and almost dropping 8 at times and just kind of daring South Carolina to make something happen. And the wide receivers looked really good. I mean, this was a game where South Carolina finally aired it out. And Mayfield Bennett catches a deep touchdown on 4th and 9. Nick Harbor, we got a sighting, catches that long touchdown pass to give the Gamecocks a chance. And there was more guys getting open, more guys catching passes. There was like one drop with Sellers rolling out that kind of hurt them a little bit. But other than that, this looks like a group that was holding its own against a Alabama secondary with tons of 4 and 5 stars.
Jordan, when you look at the loss, we asked this question yesterday. If we're having to place blame, I know we talked about the turnovers, you mentioned it, and I think you're right on there. Obviously, you can't turn the ball over 4 times and win an SEC game, especially against Alabama. But what would you, or who rather, would you place more blame on in terms of a blame game if you wanted to play the blame game for Saturday's loss?
Oh, man, that's tough. I mean, because I do think it was a lot of turnovers.
Yeah.
We're kind of the main concern. But, I mean, if we're going to go to something, I don't even know. I mean, this was just a team. This was a South Carolina team that was supposed to lose by 21 points, kind of hung in there, and basically if it just didn't beat itself, it wins that game. It's hard to really place too much blame, especially coming from the Ole Miss game when the Gamecocks looked just ugly. I mean, just some of the worst offense. And for them to go from that to what they did on Saturday, it's hard to place too much blame because I thought most of the areas improved. Obviously, the offensive line wasn't stellar, but I don't necessarily know that it was the reason they lost the game. It was, hey, you can't turn the ball over 4 times and win an SEC game, especially on the road, especially against a ranked team.
Jordan, does it concern you long term, not just this season, but next and 2026 as well, that Lenora Sellers is having to run the ball so much? He carried it 16 times against Alabama. He carried it 15 times against Ole Miss. In your mind, does Dowell Loggins really want to reduce that, or does he want to encourage it?
No, I think he wants to encourage it to an extent. Let's look at Lenora Sellers when he was a star in high school, even last year when he got in briefly. I think what drove the most excitement was, hey, this is a 6'4", 240-pound quarterback who defenses don't want to tackle. And so if you tell Lenora Sellers, hey, you're going to stand in the pocket and only run the ball 5 or 8 times a game, I mean, that's taking away one of his best attributes. So, no, I don't think it's a big deal at all that he's running the ball that much, especially when I thought he was really smart and wasn't getting himself hit. So if he can do that, you got to be okay with it. Now, there's a couple things I think he needs to improve on. One is deciding when to run quicker, just making quicker decisions. There were too many times where he held on to the ball and then decided to run, or, held on to the ball and then threw it. And, it just seems like there's a split second there where he's thinking and he shouldn't be. That will get cleaned up. That, I think, is the product of only playing, having 4 career starts. That to me is not a big deal. But then when you run, you also do have more of a problem with the fumble. But that hasn't even really been when he's fumbling. He's fumbling more so when he's just standing in the pocket or waiting too long. So, no, I think him running is an advantage for South Carolina. Now it's just going to be on Sellers to figure out, how do I run better? How do I make this more efficient?
We're talking to Jordan Kaye. You can follow him on Twitter at JordanK_23. That's Kaye. Jordan, we've had a lot of Gamecock fans yesterday on the program, obviously upset with Alex Herrera. I don't know, in your opinion, we talk about the blame game, if you actually can grade his performance this season as something that's hurt the Gamecocks, but how do you view their special teams right now, with the missed field goal obviously being glaring after Saturday's game?
Yeah, it's hard because it's, you don't want to put too much blame on a college kicker in that scenario. But I think it's kind of a problem that goes back months. South Carolina had a senior kicker who they thought was going to come back. He ends up transferring to Notre Dame. That was in December. There was plenty of time to at least explore the option in the transfer portal of, is there someone we can go get? Alabama went and portaled and got a kid from the MAC who I think won the Groza Award last year and did that late. I mean, there were guys you could have gone out and got to at least create competition. And the problem is South Carolina went into the season with like 4 walk-ons and a true freshman. Now they elevated Herrera on scholarship pretty quickly, but that's just a bad spot to be in. If you're trusting your kicking competition and no one in your room full of 5 guys has ever made a college kick, or maybe like one, so they just went into the season without a good option at kicker, and now you're seeing it. Alex Herrera hasn't been bad. He's made like 60. Hasn't been terrible. He's made 67% of his kicks, but you're basically crossing your fingers when he's kicking over 45 yards. He's made 1 46-yarder, missed a couple, beyond 45, including a 48-yarder against LSU that would have put the game into overtime, and the 51-yarder against Alabama that would have given the Gamecocks the lead with 6 minutes left. And so, I just think this is on the coaching staff. They kind of knew what they had, and you can't be mad at Herrera. You got to know, okay, if we've got to get within the 30-yard line to give our kicker a realistic chance. And that's just kind of what you got to live with right now. And the problem is I just don't think South Carolina has better options. I think they're putting the guy out there who gives them the best chance to succeed. The problem is they just don't have a ton of options.
Jordan, the way I look at it, trying to predict this team's performance it's like trying to nail Jell-O to a wall. The only thing that you can predict is inconsistency and probably shooting yourself in the foot a couple of times. If South Carolina puts the exact same performance on the field against Oklahoma that they did against Alabama, 1 pick, 3 fumbles lost, but a monster day from Lenore's and Rocket and 7 receivers catching over 20 yards of passes, what happens? What's the outcome?
They probably win. I mean, they probably do, because I just think this Oklahoma team has so many offensive deficiencies. Like, if South Carolina fans, get mad at what Dallin Loggins has put together, I mean, you should look at what Oklahoma fans are saying about their system, their quarterback, their coaches. It's really bad. I think South Carolina might be able to win this game with 20 points. Like, if South Carolina scores 25 points again, it doesn't really matter how many turnovers you have. I think they might be okay. And so, you could almost play the same game. Now, you don't want to. If they can just string together 1 or 2 more of those 8-minute drives, all of a sudden it's going to be a pretty easy game for them. But, I think you play that game, you're going to beat a lot of teams. And I think Oklahoma this season, with their offensive struggles, you probably only need to have about 3 touchdowns to win the game.
Hey, Jordan, I saw a video earlier on your Twitter about Nick Harbor talking to the media today in that late game touchdown against Alabama. Is that touchdown play, and talking about that one play specifically, is that an area or a play that Gamecock fans can point to and say maybe that's what we're starting to see from Nick Harbor? Maybe the Nick Harbor we expected starting to arrive on the scene a little bit.
Yeah, maybe. I think it's going to be – I think it is. It is definitely progress. And that's massive for a kid who was a 5-star recruit, made the Olympic trials in track, is hyped up because of the NCAA football game and his speed rating. So, yes, it was finally a sign of wow, he's progressing. He looks like a college wide receiver. Now, the thing is, it was 1 catch. Can he turn that 1 catch into a 6-catch, 80-yard game with 1 touchdown? Can he produce and have 3 or 4 catches in a game and start to become a number 1 receiver? I mean, you go up and down the NFL every week, there's some random guys that catch touchdowns. It doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot, but for his confidence, for fans to see, hey, he can catch the deep ball. He can box out his defender. He can have the wherewithal to get his foot in bounds. All that is awesome. And hopefully for a guy like Harbor, it is the first step in him becoming a top wide receiver.
Jordan, I want to go big picture here with you for just a second. Through 7 weeks, I'm seeing a lot of parity in the SEC, a lot of pretty good teams, but maybe outside of Texas, no truly great teams. Right now in this moment, do you believe top to bottom, the SEC is still the best conference in college football? If they had to go 1 versus 1, 2 versus 2, 3 versus 3 against the Big Ten, who do you think comes out with the majority of those wins?
Yeah, I think the SEC is just as good as ever. I think what we're seeing is the historically bad SEC teams, the Vanderbilt, the Kentucky, sometimes the South Carolina, which could be in the middle of the pack, Arkansas, have all of a sudden portaled and either gotten themselves a really good quarterback or really good pieces like South Carolina has with Kyle Kennard. But no, I don't think you can watch college football every week and think that the SEC is not the best conference. Now, could Oregon beat Texas on a given day? Maybe. Could Ohio State beat, whoever you want to say is the second best team in the SEC? Sure. But after that, I think the SEC would almost, run the table with the Big Ten teams they're facing off. Maybe at the top, I think Ohio State and Oregon are right up there with any SEC team. And then after that, it's probably where it starts to drop off, and the SEC's depth is just better than any other conference.
Jordan, my last question for you. Did Beamer today say anything about Rattler's performance on Sunday for the Saints?
Yeah, he said it was you know, he thought it was good. I don't remember. I don't think he said he was able to watch too much of it, but saw the highlights a little bit and heard that Rattler talked with offensive coordinator Dowell Loggins. But no, he said it was great. And I think this week on Thursday night, Spencer's going to get another start. And Shane was saying how excited he is because the Broncos have a former Gamecock in Nate Adkins. So it'll be two Gamecocks going up against each other. But no, I thought he looked pretty good. I don't know what you guys take is on it, but you know, when you're down 17-0, I think he was in your first start, probably not the easiest thing. So it was impressive that he bounced back and, you know, at least got them within striking distance.
Yeah, Jordan, I was happy to finally see him play behind a competent offensive line. You know, you saw him when he had time. And certainly there were some mistakes made, but that's to be expected for your first start in the NFL. But playing behind a competent offensive line, I thought Spencer Rattler came alive.
Yeah, I thought, you know, that was what basically all South Carolina fans wanted to see last year. We saw it a little bit in 2022, and they go and beat Tennessee and Clemson. So, yeah, it's pretty cool to see that he's getting a chance. Kind of crazy that he fell to the 5th round in the first place, but, yeah, I guess it all worked out.
Jordan, great stuff as always. We appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you again soon, man.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Absolutely. That's Jordan Kaye of the State newspaper. He covers the Gamecocks, does a fantastic job. And if you want the latest Gamecock news, insights, Jordan Kaye's the guy. If you missed the interview, download the free Odyssey app, Audacy, and go back and listen to Jordan Kaye's interview.
By the way, congratulations to Corn Chip, who won that 4-pack of tickets for Furman Western Carolina homecoming this weekend. We're going to have one more chance for you tomorrow. Probably going to be at the same time, around 5:15, that we give those tickets away. And then be sure to listen to the Rob Brown Show Thursday and Friday morning for your last two chances to win.
Corn Chip. Corn Chip's done made it big time. The Furman tickets. Congratulations, Corn Chip. Diesel, last week you and I predicted kind of the 12 teams that we thought were going to make the playoff. Today we're going to take it one step further. If it ended today, who would be the final 4 teams in the college football playoff? We know it's expanded. We know it's 12 now instead of 4, but who do Diesel and I think will be the final 4? That and your thoughts next. all said and done, they will have 12 teams that make the college football playoff. And then after 12, it's going to continue to dwindle down, and eventually it'll be 4, just like it used to be, right? Good old days. 4-team playoff, now expanded to 12, but we'll have 4 again. Let's do a mid-season prediction here. October the 15th. When it's all said and done, who do we think the 4 teams will be in the college football playoff? I have a wild card, and I know that I'll get a ton of pushback, but I'm telling you, I'll tell you this. I'll explain my wild card in just a few minutes. Let's go one at a time here, Diesel. I'll let you go first with one team, and I'll respond with one team as well. When it's all said and done, the other remaining, the G5 opponent and everybody else has already lost their first round game. We're down to 4 teams. Who will those 4 teams be?
Cole, the easy one to pick is Texas.
Yep.
Texas is too complete, right? No matter who's throwing the ball, whoever's taking the snaps back there, they're playing really good football. So sure. I can't find any reason other than maybe the case for Oregon and how complete they played against Ohio State to say anybody else is even close to being the 1 seed here. I think Texas is basically a shoe-in to make it to the Final Four.
No, I can't push back right now. Again, midway through the season, October 15th, Texas, in my opinion, Diesel looks like the best team. The best team in college football. The Texas Longhorns, they're back, right? They're back. They still have to go prove it in the postseason, but as of right now, it looks like they're back. No pushback there. I also have Texas. When it's all said and done, I have Texas as one of my final 4 teams in the college football playoff. So we have agreement there, but will the agreement continue? Who do you throw in next?
Cole, next on my list, and I'm putting them in at number 2, is Oregon, the Ducks. What they're doing up there, I mean, they've got a coach that can outthink everybody else on the field. He's an evil genius. I love what Dan Lanning is doing. He's saying, situation is something that we really, really drill down on a week in, week out basis. He was actually asked the question regarding the 12-man penalty, and this is what he had to say. Cole, if we can pop up this audio real quick.
Yeah.
Here's what Dan Lanning had to say about that.
We wasn't one-on-one. We actually had a safety on top. So there was so it's called dog. It's when you play, but he wasn't in an extremely tight coverage, but he was in dog coverage where he had safety on top of him. And there was a timeout before that. We spent an inordinate amount of time on situations. There's some situations that don't show up very often in college football, but this is one that obviously was something that we have worked on. So you can see the result.
Dillon Gabriel is playing lights out football right now. 13 touchdowns, not giving the ball away very often. He's only been picked off 3 times, only 7 sacks already now through 7 weeks of the season, Cole. Yep. His rating is off the friggin' charts. 1,700, almost 1,800 yards at this point, completing 76% of his passes. Dillon Gabriel by himself is going to win you a lot of football games. Oh, by the way, they've got a running back who's going to be closing in on 1,000 yards probably by week number 10 of the season, if not week number 9 of the football season. Oregon is just fantastic.
They're a really good football team. I also have Oregon in the Final Four. If you just tuned in, I asked the question, who the Final Four teams would be. After the 8 get eliminated, you can give us your 4 as well. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. 71307, keyword fan. Diesel said Texas and Oregon. I also say Texas and Oregon. My 3rd, Ohio State. I said it at the very beginning of the season. Ohio State, Diesel, was my prediction, the team that I thought would win the national championship in 2024. I know they lost to Oregon this past weekend. However, I still think they get in the playoff. I still think they make a lot of noise. They're a stacked team. I think Ohio State's my 3rd team. I have Texas, Oregon, and Ohio State. Who do you put in at 3?
I'm with you, man. I like Ohio State as well. Will Howard, another fantastic quarterback. He's not taking a lot of tackles for loss this season. He's been sacked 3 times for a total of 25 yards. So he's taking good care of the football. He's getting it out quickly. He's averaging 9.5 yards per completion, which is just absurd.
Pretty good.
The running game is a little bit weaker for Ohio State. Quinshon Judkins. Now they have two guys who are really good running backs, Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. Those two guys, their numbers aren't going to look super gaudy, but when you've got both of them together pushing the 500-yard mark at this point of the season, you got a two-headed beast. You got you obviously have some room in case one of those guys goes down. You have a really good backup behind him. So I think Ohio State offensively is a really, really solid football team.
So we've agreed on the three. Our predictions for the Final Four teams: Texas, Ohio State, Oregon. However, there's disagreement in the fourth.
Mm-hmm.
Diesel, this is my wild card, but I could see it happening. I really could. My fourth team that I think gets into the college football playoff. It's going to surprise you. It's going to surprise our Tolos. I think LSU gets in. I think LSU is in the Final Four. I think LSU is in the Final Four. I mean, not 5, not 6. LSU has a path in the playoff. They have a really good quarterback. Diesel, their schedule the rest of the season. Arkansas, I think they win. A&M, I think they win. Bama, Tiger Stadium, Baton Rouge, give me the win for LSU over Alabama. Florida, they'll win. Vandy, they'll win. Oklahoma, they'll win. They'll go into the SEC championship game with one loss. LSU is a deadly football team. Garrett Nussmeier is as good as they get. People are sleeping on them because they started the season bad. But I'm telling you, man, LSU has a good shot at being there when it's all said and done.
They are rounding in form. They are rounding into a very dangerous football team. Remember, Cole, it wasn't that long ago that LSU fans were livid at Brian Kelly for the way the season started.
Yeah.
Oh, how the tables turn. I'm going to go different from you, though, Cole.
Okay.
You're going 2 SEC, 2 Big Ten teams in the Final Four.
Yeah.
I'm going 1 SEC team, 3 Big Ten
Whoa,
teams.
there's no way that
in
happens,
the Final Four. Yeah, because I'm going Penn State as that 4th team that makes it in. Drew Aller is great. Here's the thing about them, Cole. They've got a tight end, Tyler Warren, who is bowling dudes over, averaging 13 yards a catch. Harrison Wallace, really good as well.
Man.
A little weak in the run game, but they're spreading the ball around to a lot of different wide receivers. And so long as Drew Aller stays up, I think he's going to distribute. And that's a dangerous football team. They're also winning gutsy football games at this point. So I've got Penn State as my number 4 team.
I don't hate it. We'll see.
When we come back, Cole, some recruiting news that may be bad for Dabo. Is it going to lead to a change that you and I have predicted? That's coming up next on the Fan Upstate. Is Blake Hebert the straw that will break Dabo's back when it comes to the transfer portal? This is a big one, Cole. Quarterback Blake Hebert for the 2025 class has decommitted from Clemson and is flipping to Notre Dame to be their next signal caller. Really fascinating situation playing out in Clemson. Now, I know some of you are saying, well, Blake Hebert, he's supposed to be pretty good, but not like phenomenal. He is a 247 3-star recruit. He is a composite 4-star recruit. Still stinks to lose your planned backup quarterback. But Clemson did not take a quarterback in 2024, Cole, which Dabo says was intentional and was part of the reason they got Christopher Vezina to sign at Clemson. Dabo has said, we try and take a quarterback every year. We love the 3 quarterbacks we have. They are pretty good. Very few people have 3 quarterbacks they can win with. If you've got 3 quarterbacks today that you can win with, you're in pretty good shape. The question becomes, Cole, now with a potential 2-year hole in Clemson's quarterback recruiting flow, could that be the reason Dabo Swinney has no choice but to go to the transfer portal and get a quarterback for the 2025 class?
Well, it's interesting because Dabo's been very much against the portal,
Sure.
right? And I do believe that at key positions, when you look at Clemson's roster, for the most part, key positions, Dabo's guys are better for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
However, when you look at maybe Dabo finally using or dabbing in the portal, I could see it. Yep. And again, the reason why is it's quarterback. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the quarterback position is not important, but it's not a starter. It's not a pressing matter. It's not a guy that you banked on being the starting quarterback for your team. And with that being the case, maybe he does break the narrative and go find someone who maybe, is also a 2 or 3 star. I don't think the stars really matter when it comes to the backup quarterbacks, but it wouldn't surprise me. I do think that you're going to see more and more of these quarterbacks flip, Diesel, with the portal and NIL continuing to be a factor. But it wouldn't surprise me if Dabo did go dip and get him a backup.
Well, with Blake Hebert, I don't know if this is Notre Dame's attempt to start establishing some high school recruiting instead of doing what they've done the past 2 or 3 seasons and going out and getting a starter in the transfer portal. Maybe they're trying to build their own quarterback depth and do things the more traditional way. I don't, Cole. I know I posed the question. I don't believe that this will get Dabo Swinney to go to the transfer portal in the way that we think about Dabo Swinney going to the transfer portal and taking a quarterback for the 2025 class. They do have a guy, Paul Tyson, who technically transferred to Clemson. He is listed as QB4. Paul Tyson spent some time at Alabama, played in a couple of games in 2021. He is a grad transfer from Alabama. He didn't play in 2022. Now he's at Clemson. He actually has some stats this year, so he must have gotten into one of these blowout games when they got all the way down to the 4th string quarterback. Cole, I think the way Dabo Swinney will use the transfer portal at the quarterback position, he will always prioritize Christopher Vezina as the next guy in line. He is not going to go out and find somebody to jump Christopher Vezina. It doesn't matter who is out there, and we don't know, obviously, at this point, who might be available in the transfer portal class at the quarterback position until December. I don't think we see Dabo go out and get one of those guys. I certainly see Dabo, though, going out, finding a guy, prioritizing somebody like Paul Tyson, who has done everything he needed to do at his previous institution, is now free to leave as a grad transfer.
Yeah.
So it will always be the succession will always be Klubnik to Vezina to Pierman to down the line, and backup guys who they're going to bring in who they think, if all hell broke loose and we had to get all the way down the depth chart, we want to find a guy who left his school in good standing and is coming here as a grad transfer.
Well, that's the succession now. What happens if next season Cade Klubnik's back at Clemson, and Christopher Vecina says, I can go play over here, much like Chase Bryce did. And I'm not comparing the Christopher Vecina situation to Chase Bryce. However, what if Vecina looks at it and says, look, if I'm not going to get a chance here, and I know Klubnik's better than I am, what if I can go to an App State or somewhere like that? And then that's when that succession plan's blown up.
Sure.
And maybe, Trent Pierman's always going to be on the roster, his dad, everything that his ties to Clemson and Daniel. He's a really good quarterback. Maybe one day Trent Pierman's QB2. It could happen. But I'm just saying, backup quarterbacks don't stay happy long, especially now with the era of NIL in the portal. You go tell a backup quarterback he's got to sit behind another quarterback for 2 to 3 years. In this era of college football, I don't see it happening much.
Yeah, Cade Klubnik is a junior. He'll come back. He could come back for another season.
He'll be back.
If the grade is, and I don't think the grade is going to be much higher than probably a second rounder at best for Cade Klubnik.
Yeah.
I think, Cade's going to come back for another season, and that does offer some really interesting questions. Now, we're going with the information that we have right now at the time. Cade Klubnik is having a good junior season at Clemson, 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's not currently listed, he's not currently talked about among those elite quarterbacks and having a chance to maybe go be a first rounder in the NFL.
Yeah.
That does pose a very interesting question of just how happy is Christopher Vecina and how willing is he going to be to sit back and stay on this roster and sit and play mop-up duty.
And he's a redshirt freshman. Vecina is. So with him being a redshirt freshman, I think he played like 2 snaps last year, Diesel.
He could have 3 full seasons if he wanted it.
Yeah.
Even if Cade Klubnik comes back next year.
It's interesting. I do think Klubnik comes back. I really do. I don't think, look, he's going to have an incredible season. His statistics are going to be absolutely phenomenal. However, I don't know that he'll see enough in the NFL in terms of his grade to just go ahead and risk it for the biscuit. I think there's a very solid chance he comes back.
Texter says it only happens if Dabo finds a quarterback who can double as a grad assistant.
Yeah.
I mean, Dabo will always do things his way, and Dabo will look for guys who are in good standing with their previous institution, and that he's not going to have to throw a ton of money at, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't want to pay you a lot of money to come here. He wants to hopefully get you NIL opportunities if you come here and you do well.
Right. And I know we have another note to get to in a minute, but before we leave the Clemson conversation, Diesel, I want to get to this before we get to Michael Skinner over at Riverside and that conversation on the Clemson topic. David Hood, 2:25 today, right before we went on the air, breaking news on tigernet.com. David joins us on Monday at 4:20. David put, the Clemson University Board of Trustees will vote on a proposal later this week to charge students an athletic fee. The headline of the article was athletic fees for students. Well, the university, Diesel, has toyed with the idea of charging a fee that would benefit athletics for several years, but those ideas have been shelved until now. Clemson, David says, is one of the only schools in the state that doesn't have one, and one of the only schools that doesn't charge students for tickets. It's not known at this time, says David, how much the fee would be and what it would entail. But David finishes the article by saying Clemson students, Diesel, currently have the option to attend the football games for free, but they must enter a single game lottery. The lottery is capped at a maximum of 4 games to allow as many students as possible to attend games, right? Which makes sense. Students also have the option to purchase season tickets if they want to attend all home games. Access to purchase season tickets is prioritized via a point system as approved by the student government. So now all of a sudden you're talking about all athletics, not just football. By the way, students have access to other Clemson sporting athletic events, Diesel, right now for free. So if you're a Clemson student, you can go to any event for free. But this breaking today, very interesting that the Board of Trustees might implement a fee for students, an athletic fee. What do you think about that?
I mean, that's an interesting way to maybe close the revenue gap. I just did some quick math here. Clemson's got 23,400 students. What if that athletic fee was $25 a year, which doesn't seem absurd, right? Doesn't seem ludicrous. That's $586,000 that could come Clemson's way just by charging each of its students $25 in athletics fees. So you charge them $50. That's, now you're pushing over $1 million in additional revenue by charging that. That's tough. But then again, if you're letting students into football games for free, it may be a necessary thing. Now, here's where this gets a little iffy for me, Cole, is to not have guaranteed entry into games while at the same time charging me an athletic fee. Like if you're going to charge me $50 a year or $100 a year or whatever the charge may be, which ultimately when you're paying the tuition that you're paying, a $50 or $100 athletic fee added to your tuition doesn't seem like a gigantic fee.
Yeah.
But you're charging me money for something. And if I don't have guaranteed access to be able to use it, then you're just extorting me for money.
And I'm very obviously a ton of research would have to be put into this. I'm very intrigued, though, like what the rest of the SEC and the ACC does, Diesel, when it comes to student tickets, because Clemson, they've been operating this way for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's this system they've had in place for a long time where tickets have been free, and now the Board of Trustees may be wanting to change that. Look, if they're the only state in the school that's not doing it, I wouldn't say freak out, hit the panic button, and absolutely just throw rocks at the Board of Trustees. At the end of the day, what's free anymore, right? I'm shocked that in 2024, student tickets to Clemson are still free. You won 2 national championships, for crying out loud, right? It surprises me because nothing's free anymore.
So just to put this into a little bit of perspective, and I just made up a number, right? Like $25 for a student fee or $100 for student fees. I just because I remember I had seen graphics for this at some point. The question is how much do students in the Sun Belt Conference fund athletics through their student fees?
Yeah.
In 2024, the highest funded by students fee for athletics in the Sun Belt was James Madison University.
Doesn't surprise me.
The mandatory student fee for athletics at James Madison is $5,662 per student.
Oh,
how this exactly works, I'm just reading what it says here. The mandatory student fee for athletics at James Madison is $5,600, with $2,300 of that going to fund athletics.
Ooh.
I'm not really sure how that money gets split apart, but let's just
built
say
into their tuition, right? It's got to be.
Yeah, so let's just say that you have that 23,400 students at Clemson times the $2,300 fee that goes to fund athletics. You're talking about $54 million.
Could be a lot.
That could be a lot of money, and you got to make up the revenues somehow.
Yeah.
I just wonder from you Clemson students, you Clemson alumni, parents who are paying tuition for your students to go to Clemson, how do you feel about a potential athletic fee that would go to football at Clemson? It's a really fascinating
all
question.
Sports.
And all sports.
Yeah.
Cole, we mentioned here talking about some recruiting news with Blake Hebert flipping his commitment from Clemson to Notre Dame. We have some in-state recruiting news. Riverside's Michael Skinner is set to announce his college choice next week. He is choosing between South Carolina, Kentucky, South Florida, Ohio State, and Georgia. So what can you tell us about Michael Skinner?
It's a really, really good football player. Riverside, they're a team that's getting better and better. Matthew Rochester has, ever since he took over, he's done an incredible job. I think it was Cincinnati where he was committed originally, and now with him opening this back up, you look at Kentucky, Carolina, Georgia, Ohio State, and USF, all very interesting options, right? But one, again, I have no inside knowledge, Diesel. One would imagine that it's going to come down to the 2 SEC schools that are right here near South Carolina, Columbia, and Athens. in Ohio State because Ohio State's always going to be in the picture in terms of recruiting. But it's very interesting because he decommitted from Cincinnati. He's a guy that's, you said it, 4-star, a very good receiver. Burns, I won't get to see him this year because that game was axed off the schedule. But he's fantastic, man. And he's one of the best around. I cannot wait to see him at the college level. I hope he stays in state. Hopefully, right? Let's see if Beamer – how big would that be for Beamer's receiving?
Gigantic.
Be huge.
Gigantic. He's currently listed as a tight end. This is from 24/7 Sports. Listed as a tight end, the number 12 tight end in this class, the second best prospect coming out of the state of South Carolina. If Shane Beamer gets this guy, that you're right, would be absolutely gigantic. I wonder why, Cole. Why are we not seeing Clemson on these lists? Anytime we see big-time recruits coming out of South Carolina, the Gamecocks are always in their top 5. We're not seeing Clemson out there a ton.
Yeah, I just wonder if they already have their receiver guys. I don't know. Yeah.
Could be. We're seeing a lot of out-of-state guys making their way to Clemson. So I thought that was a really, really interesting thing.
Texter from the 415 chimes in and says, or ask rather, what happened to the running back for Burns that was so good last year, who is going to be highly touted if he stays healthy? Trey Segura, texter. Trey had an injury this season, and he's out for the season. They could get him back in the playoffs, but he had an injury, and it's a huge blow. He's one of the best running backs in the state. So hopefully he'll recover and return and be exactly what he used to be. But that's what happened to him. He got hurt.
Cole, when we come back, you had a little bit of, I don't know if you call it a dust up, but you had a conversation with Madcraft on the stream yesterday, and you want to get into that.
Madcraft, you brought something up. We're coming to you, as Diesel said, next. Diesel, the conversation that we're going to have now is a good reason why our Tolos, which stands for turn on, leave on. What does that mean? That's what we ask you to do. Turn it on, leave it on. That's what you are, the Tolos. It's a good reason, Diesel, that the Tolos out there should not only listen to the show, Wire to Wire, every single day from 3 to 7. However, you need to get in the chat. You need to get in the chat because you can watch the show on the stream as well as chop it up with the other Tolos, Diesel. There's nothing better than looking down and seeing a bunch of Tolos going back and forth, especially when it's Clemson on Carolina hate, right? We love that. But yesterday, Madcraft and I were having a conversation during a commercial break that I wanted to bring to the air because I thought it was a good conversation for you and I to discuss. It was when you and I were talking about Shane Beamer yesterday. Madcraft, and I'm not direct quoting him here, so Madcraft, if I get the words a little wrong, I do apologize. But Diesel, we were having the conversation about South Carolina almost beating Bama, and I believe Madcraft's comments were something to the effect of, look, they've got to have higher expectations. Gamecock fans do. They've got to go get them a coach and have a coach with a lot of experience come in, who's a legend, right? He asked the question about why they could do it for baseball but not football. Well, I said I disagreed with Madcraft when he talked about South Carolina being a destination job. I want to bring that to the airwaves in this very next segment. And we'll talk to our high school player of the week in the next segment. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a fantastic interview, Diesel. But South Carolina fans needing to have higher expectations, says Madcraft. Also, it is a destination job, says Madcraft. I pushed back a little bit on the destination job when it comes to higher expectations as well as it being a destination job. What are your thoughts?
Well, every job in the SEC should be looked at as a destination job because there's only 16 of them and it's the best conference in college football. You could also say the same thing about the Big Ten. How many schools are even in the Big Ten anymore? 20, something like 18,
it's a lot.
40. I don't know how many schools are in the Big Ten. So you combine those two conferences together, you've got somewhere in the range of 35 to 40 really, really good jobs.
Yep.
I mean, like elite level jobs. Sure, Northwestern isn't quite what Michigan is. And Vanderbilt, outside of this year, isn't quite what Alabama is. South Carolina is a very, very good job. Is it Georgia? No. If the opportunity ever arose, and let's just say for the sake of argument that Jim Smith comes in to be the head coach at South Carolina and he is elite at South Carolina. I'm talking he's winning 10, 11 games a year over a 3 or 4 year stretch. There will always be an Alabama to come and scoop him up.
Yeah.
There will always be a Georgia to come and scoop him up, or maybe a Tennessee to come and scoop him up, or the NFL to come and scoop him up, right? South Carolina, as of yet, and I only say this because we haven't seen it happen yet, South Carolina has not shown the ability to identify an elite level head coach, have him come in and be wildly successful for, half a decade or so, and then be able to keep him long-term. Every program out in college football is trying to achieve that exact same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So don't take this as an insult whatsoever, Gamecock fans. You haven't found that guy yet. That guy is literally a unicorn. He is a diamond in the rough. You find that guy, you hopefully can throw a ton of money at him and keep him forever, right? But that's just not the reality that we live in. I mean, Lane Kiffin was hired away multiple times. Lane Kiffin was the it guy, and if you believe the Twitter rumors, Lane Kiffin could be hired away again, right? He could have a very, very good thing going for him at Ole Miss, where he has everything he could want. Yet another program could still come in and scoop him away by offering him a little bit more money. So South Carolina is a destination job in so much as saying that it is the best conference in college football. You've got a great stadium. You've got great fan support. It very well could be a destination job. Is it the best of the best destination jobs? No.
So my response would be, Diesel, it is a destination job to some. However, it's not a destination job to the people you need to be worried about. That's my response. It's a destination job to a lot of people. It's a destination job to Shane Beamer. Will Muschamp took the job after not having the success that he thought. Here's the dilemma here. In terms of South Carolina and what Madcraft and I were talking about yesterday, talking about this being a destination job. When you're wanting to get over the hump and you're wanting to have the higher expectations that Madcraft was talking about, and I get that conversation. There's nothing wrong with having high expectations. However, when your expectations are national championship and your school is South Carolina, those two things don't go together because of, well, you just said it. South Carolina's not Georgia. South Carolina's not Alabama. So is it a destination job for a lot of coaches across America? Sure. My point is, I don't think it's a destination job for those that you want to attract. The big names, the best of the best, aren't wanting to come to South Carolina. However, to your point, looking for the unicorn, Shane Beamer could be the unicorn. Any coach that you bring in with really good facilities at South Carolina and the new era of portal and NIL, Diesel, it's easier now, in my opinion, for South Carolina to be successful, for you to find that unicorn because of NIL, because of the portal, because of their ability to go out and get guys that are driven by, the green dollar, right? Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with wanting to get paid. My point is, though, before NIL and portal, it was much more difficult to build South Carolina a la Steve Spurrier. He was ultra successful, but if Steve Spurrier would have had portal and NIL, they'd probably be playing for a national championship.
Yeah, if Steve Spurrier had portal and NIL, he probably would have stayed at Florida, right? To your point, is South Carolina a destination job in the sense that there's only like 5 or 6 of those destination jobs, meaning Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Southern Cal.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's 1 or 2 more on there, but I mean, you start going much farther outside of that, Cole, you start saying, okay, well, there's a school that a head coach would leave for one of those 5 jobs if it ever became available. I mean, is South Carolina ever going to be the type of program that can throw a truckload of money at Dan Lanning and have him leave Oregon to come to South Carolina? No.
Yeah.
No. So like, are they both a blue blood and an elite job that is like undeniable if they called you and threw a lot of money at you? South Carolina's not there. And it would take decades probably to change that. That's just kind of how the minutia of college football works. There's those preconceived notions and deep-seated ideas of what a school is that take a very long time to change.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, though, when you're talking about those preconceived notions, guess what? If there's a time for those notions to be changed, guess what? Now's the time. Because you can see very quickly, and I'm not saying the narrative is just completely shifted off Alabama, but with portal, with NIL, like Jordan Kaye talked about, you're seeing teams like Vandy be better. You're seeing teams like Arkansas be better. You're seeing parity very quickly in college football, right? You're seeing a lot of parity, which is allowing these smaller teams that usually aren't as successful be successful, and maybe that parity starts to chip off the ones at the top. Maybe the Bamas do start to fall. Maybe the ones that are the blue bloods that you talked about do start to fall, where South Carolina can work their way up to being looked at as a destination type job.
Well, here's the one issue with that, Cole, is if you were a former blue blood, Texas, Miami, those types of programs, people always want you to be back.
They do.
Right? They want you to be back. Remember, there was a time before Nick Saban where Alabama was bad. They were a bad football team. Now, there was a long time between Bear Bryant and Nick Saban in the middle where it was pretty weak in there. Some pretty lean years down in Tuscaloosa. So even though you're going to be down for a while, those programs always find a way to come back because there will be fans who remember those elite years. There will be pundits and college football historians who yearn to have that back. You know, like the elite blue bloods, the longtime schools, they want to have those types of schools back. But it's a fascinating conversation. It's a very, very good job. Is it a best of the best, tippy top of the heap job? No, it's not.
Texter from the 327 before we run to a break says Gamecocks already had two of the best coaches and most people have ever seen in their lifetimes, and they're still left wanting. Well, franchise or fan bases and programs are always going to be wanting.
It's proof of how hard it is to be able to do that again and again and again. Lou Holtz brought them from the trash heap back to the middle of the pack. Spurrier took them from the middle of the pack to the tippy top.
Yeah.
And then, but Steve, the one problem is Steve Spurrier did that when he was already an older coach. And he wasn't going to be able to stick around forever. If Steve Spurrier was 15 years younger when he took the job at South Carolina,
he'd still be there.
He might still be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we come back, Cole, we talk to our Fan Upstate High School Player of the Week, Reese Price from Wren. That's next. Excited to bring on our very next guest here on the Fan Upstate. First time on the show. And if he keeps putting up numbers like this, probably not the last time. He's going to join us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Senior, I hesitate to call him just a running back because the dude is putting up numbers all over the stat sheet. 27 carries for 206 yards, 3 touchdowns. Reese, number one, congratulations on being named the Wire to Wire Fan Upstate High School Player of the Week. Can you walk us through this passing touchdown that you had, sort of diagnose that play for us and tell us how it worked? Because I'm just trying to wrap my mind around how somebody can have such a monster game.
Yeah, so thank you. First of all, so we had it dialed up actually before the hurricane hit. It was a Woodruff trick play. We called it Wolverine. And we got on the goal line, and I didn't think he was going to call it, but he called it. And it's kind of just a direct snap to me, act like I'm running it, and then I just dump it off to my tight end, Ethan Hartness. So when he called it, I was like, this is my second trick play ever. I mean, I got to execute it, and was happy I could do it to get the hat trick.
We're talking to our Fan Upstate Player of the Week, Reese Price of Wren High School. Reese, you guys now 4-1 on the season after defeating Fountain Inn on Friday night, 49-12. Talk about the weeks off that you had because of the hurricane, having to get back acclimated to practice last week and then playing, I'm sure, on a short week of practice. Was that tough for you guys?
Yeah, no doubt. There was some obstacles within that time period. Our beloved teammate got in a car crash also, and with the hurricane, all of it going on, it was a lot for the team to wrap their heads around. And I'm just glad that we were just able to go out and dominate within that time off and really show people that even though we have a long break, we can still come out and play like the Wren Hurricanes on Friday night.
Reese, tell me what goes through your mind as a game starts to play out and you're stacking up numbers, 206 yards, a touchdown on the ground, a receiving touchdown, a passing touchdown. Is there just something you can kind of feel leading up to that game, maybe the week of, maybe the night of? Is it a preparation and a confidence that you can do it every time you go out, or does something kind of come over you and you can just feel it coming?
Yeah, obviously we knew this was heading in. This was a big game. It was our first region game since we pushed Emerald back. So we obviously knew that now this is playoff seeding, so it's time to go. And Coach P, our offensive coordinator, did a great job game planning. He really likes to run football, so we were able to do that. I was also able to receive the ball too, got a touchdown there, and
Reese, for those out there listening today, how long have you been playing football? And also with 3 different positions, you scored a touchdown. Which of the positions is your favorite?
Yeah, I've been involved in the Wren program for a while now. It's a great place to be. Moved here in 3rd grade, so it's been home ever since I moved here. And I'd say the favorite one was probably just the passing one. You know, it doesn't happen very often. I get a few receiving ones here and there, and obviously get some rushing, but it's not every day that you're a running back and you get to pass the ball. So it was a great memory doing that.
So you mentioned a minute ago, Reese, that this was the second time you've got to run a trick play. What was the other one, and how did that one go?
My junior year last year, it was against Seneca High School. Right before half, we did a orbit with me, and I chucked it 40 yards to my receiver, who's now playing at Anderson, Seth Akerson. Great play.
Sounds like it. Absolutely sounds like it. We're talking to Reese Price, the Fan Upstate Player of the Week. Talk about your team, Reese. Obviously, you guys are off to a good start, 4-1 on the season, just absolutely all over Fountain Inn Friday night, 49-12. But when you talk about the team, obviously we're talking to you because you were the Player of the Week. But for those out there that haven't seen Wren this season, now's your time to spotlight those others that are surrounding you and making your game better as well.
Yeah, no doubt. We got a great O-line. Rushed for over 1,000 last year, so I mean they've been doing their thing for the past 2 years, and I'm sure y'all probably know of Colton Bagel, very diverse quarterback, run the ball, pass the ball, and our receivers are great. We graduated a lot last year, but we have a great group this year. One of them actually was a basketball player that came out. It was his first year, and he's balling. So then on the defense, we got some dogs. great up front, Cam Sanders and Ethan O'Brien. Hard-hitting linebackers, Pedro and Montu. And then we got some speed demons, Noah Ramey and Tyler Morgan. They're all just great, doing their thing and helping us get back on the field and putting some points out.
Reese, you keep having games like this. I'm sure you're going to keep picking up more and more attention from the collegiate level. Are you interested in playing football at the next level? And who's reached out to you so far? Who's shown some interest, and who are you really interested in?
Yes, sir. I'm kind of where now if the opportunity presents itself, if those schools want me, then I'll take into high consideration of attending their school. But a few schools, Mercer reached out, Carson Newman, NGU, Anderson, and Furman so far. So got to talk to them a little bit, and hopefully something comes up.
Absolutely. Congratulations on that. You guys are preparing now. It's Tuesday. You have Lawrence on Friday. What are you game planning? I mean, walk us rather through your week as a player in terms of how you prepare for this opponent with Lawrence going up.
Yes, sir. This week's also a special week. It's our homecoming week. So we all have our head in a swivel and know that there's going to be a lot of people here coming to this game. But yes, like I said, another region game. We know it's for seeding. Got to play our heads off. Still keeping Isaac in the back of our mind, playing for him. And so, yeah, another region game. We gotta go out and just be physical like we do.
Reese, what is your coaching staff telling you? All these region games are important. Lawrence is important. Southside is important. But, man, looming just a couple of weeks away on November 1st, you got Westside, a really, really good football team. It would be easy to look ahead at them. What is your coaching staff saying to you and the team to stay focused on the task at hand, which is Lawrence on Friday night?
Yeah, that's correct. He's basically just been saying, just focus on us, focus on this week. We'll worry about the other stuff and going to war with them in a couple of weeks. Got to get to that week first. But yeah, just keeping the days in front of us and not looking ahead to get off track.
Reese, I'll tell you this, man. I have interviewed over the 12 years I've been doing this a lot of high school students, a lot of high school athletes, and especially on my Saturday morning show, the Saturday Morning Scramble, where we just cover high school football. You are as well-spoken as any of them, very polite, love talking to you. Congratulations on the Fan Upstate Player of the Week from me. And obviously, as Diesel said, you keep putting up those type of numbers, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Yes, sir, no doubt.
Appreciate you, man. You have a great performance on Friday, and we appreciate your time.
Yep. Thank y'all so much. Hope to see y'all soon.
Absolutely.
Congratulations, Reese. Yeah, just an all-around fantastic performance that he had this past week, Cole. I mean, to have somebody who is that diverse of a football player, the ability to number one, carry the ball 27 times in a high school game, you're taking a beating, and to be able to pick up 206 yards on the ground, a passing touchdown, a receiving touchdown. That's going to be the type of player, Cole, that as a guy that's a little bit undersized, he's currently listed on the Max Preps website as 5'9", 176 pounds, a little bit undersized of a guy. That's the kind of dude that could really, really make a name for himself at the FCS level. We certainly wouldn't steer him any particular direction, but I know our friends up there in Travelers Rest would love to have him.
And they have a very good shot on Friday against Furman to get 2-0 in the region. Furman. You had Furman on my mind. They have a very good shot against Lawrence on Friday. Lawrence, look, first year with Greg Porter. They like to run the football a lot as well. They're off to again, talking about Wren, they're off to a 1-0 start now in region play, Diesel. With that Lawrence game Friday, then Southside, you're right, Westside looming obviously in the distance. But Wren's a really good team, man, a really good team, very well coached by Anthony Freight, and that should be a good game against Lawrence.
Great
on Friday.
Fan support there too. I've been to more than one Wren game in my time living here in the upstate, and they always pack that stadium out.
They will. And I tell you this, I'm leaning I think, I don't know if it'll be 49-12 again, but I do think Wren has a very good chance to get the win on Friday.
Tolos, you have 21 hours to think about it.
Don't remind me. Why are you reminding me of that?
Cole doesn't want to think about it at all. The Wire to Wire Upset Picks Challenge starts tomorrow. We'll lock in the spreads as of 3 o'clock. And then at 4, You Tolos, you know what to do each and every week. You flood the text line with your upset picks. That is tomorrow starting at 4 o'clock. Can anyone chip into Twisted Whiskers' lead, who has a 5-point lead on second place Noel, and then it is a precipitous drop off all the way down to 5 points where Cole Bryson is.
I think I'm due this week.
You're 51 and a half points behind the leader.
I think I'm due this week, man. Speaking of due, a big show due tomorrow. We'll see you. It's a Wednesday edition of Wire to Wire. Tolo.